Chapter 115. The back of Bei Yunji's neck was pinched, and a numb electric current seemed to shoot up from her tailbone. It sounded like he was giving her face. However, this scene made Qing Shuyuan's heart churn with jealousy. She stared at the two people who were whispering in public. Sir, Bei Yunji already has someone she likes. She likes my cousin, Qing Zihuai. Qing Shuyuan's heart ached and she became even more jealous. She could not imagine why such a man would fall for Bei Yunji. Qing Shuyuan. Qing Zihuai interrupted her with a terrible expression. However, he then stared at Bei Yunji, wanting to know if she would refute. Qing Shuyuan, do you have to discuss me in public? Bei Yunji asked slowly. At that moment, Qing Zihuai's expression turned even worse. Bei Yunji, you. Bei Yunji deliberately leaned closer to Huashidu and placed her hands on the man's waist. She raised her eyebrows and looked beautiful and flirtatious. I'm sorry, student Qing. I don't want my sugar daddy to misunderstand. It was not only Qing Zihuai. When Qing Shuyuan saw Bei Yunji's clingy look, she was so angry that her eyes almost turned black. Why did Bei Yunji seem to have changed into a different person now? She did not look as cowardly and afraid as before. At this moment, however, that noble and self-restrained man even placed a hand lazily on Bei Yunji's shoulder, as if he was supporting her. Was someone preparing to apologize just now? The man asked casually. In an instant, Qing Shuyuan's face turned pale and she subconsciously pulled Qing Zihuai helplessly. Zihuai, how could she not tell that this man was not to be trifled with? Qing Zihuai calmed down very quickly. Sir, this matter can be resolved. Actually, there's no need to embarrass both parties. However, the man sneered softly. His magnetic voice was indifferent and indolent, revealing a sense of oppression that went straight to the heart. I'm here to support my child, not to uphold justice. As soon as he finished speaking, many women in the hall who heard this had the urge to kill their boyfriends. This was the first time she had seen a man so unreasonable. However, Qing Zihuai, who had the worst expression, could only clench his fists and look at Huashidu with a livid expression. What if I don't agree? Bickering with a brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth is quite demeaning. The man's smooth jawline was superior, his posture was gentle and lazy, and his casual tone still hit Qing Zihuai's self-esteem. Then let your parents come and take her away. With just a confrontation, Qing Zihuai felt the gap between him and the man in front of him. His eyes were bloodshot. He couldn't help but clench his fists and tremble all over. Assistant Seng, who had just returned, reminded him with a smile, Master Du, there seems to be only one listed company with the surname Cheng in Yuncheng. Some time ago, they even contacted the Hua Corporation to ask for a cooperation opportunity. After saying this, Qing Zihuai raised his head abruptly, his pupils constricting as he subconsciously took a step back. Hua Corporation, the Hua Corporation. All along, Qing Zihuai had some understanding of his family business. It was impossible for him not to know what kind of existence the Hua Corporation was in the country. The Hua Corporation. How could it be the Hua Corporation? Even Qing Shuyuan, a young lady who didn't understand the company, had a certain understanding of the Hua Corporation. Chapter 116. The way Qing Shuyuan looked at Bei Yunji was filled with strong resentment. If not for Bei Yunji, she would not have left such an impression on Huashidu the first time she met him. Miss Qing, if you want the Qing Corporation to pay the price, this matter will not be so simple. Assistant Seng reminded her considerately. Zihuai, what should we do? When Qing Shuyuan heard this, she immediately grabbed Qing Zihuai's hand. Her eyes were slightly red and she was a little afraid. She was the daughter of the second branch of the Qing family. Compared to Qing Zihuai, she was not favored. If she really offended the Hua Corporation, it was very likely that her parents would be implicated. Qing Zihuai was indignant, but he knew that he could not compare to Huashidu. He gritted his teeth and could only look at Huashidu with bloodshot eyes. In the end, his gaze landed on Bei Yunji. It was as if he hoped that Bei Yunj would settle the matter peacefully. However, Bei Yunj only looked at them with a faint smile. He had no intention of speaking up for them. This made Cheng Zihuai's chest burn with anger. He endured it and gritted his teeth. Cheng Shuyuan, apologize. Cheng Shuyuan looked at Cheng Zihuai in disbelief. Her eyes were watery as she asked aggrievedly. Zihuai, what did you say? He actually wanted her to apologize to Bei Yunj in public? Apologize to Bei Yunj. Cheng Zihuai took a deep breath and said. I won't. Cheng Shuyuan cried aggrievedly. She could not help but look at Huashidu again, hoping that he would be soft-hearted. However, Huashidu did not even look at her. He only casually reached out and brushed Bei Yunj's slightly messy hair behind her back. If you don't apologize, don't you know who will be implicated? Cheng Zihuai's tone became colder and more irritated. Cheng Shuyuan bit her lip. Feeling the gazes of the people around her, she felt even more embarrassed. She had been pampered since she was young. When had she ever embarrassed herself like this? In the end, Cheng Shuyuan hid the hatred in her eyes and could only look at Bei Yunj. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito. I'm sorry. What are you talking about? I can't hear you clearly, Miss Cheng. Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes twitched. Her behavior was a little bad, but she was so good-looking that no one could say anything bad about her. Cheng Shuyuan's face turned red and white. She raised her voice and said, Bei Yunj, I'm sorry. Are you apologizing to the wrong person? Bei Yunj's smile did not reach her eyes, and there was no warmth in them. She walked up to Cheng Shuyuan and reached out to lift her chin. Cheng Shuyuan struggled subconsciously but failed to break free. She could only look into Bei Yunj's eyes, which were quiet and cold. She's not here now, but I have to listen to this apology on her behalf. But if there's a next time, guess what will happen to you? Suddenly, Cheng Shuyuan looked into her cold eyes and felt a chill on her back. She had goosebumps all over her body. I apologize to your grandmother. Cheng Shuyuan's legs went soft, and her voice trembled. I'm sorry. She looked at Bei Yunj in front of her. Her facial features did not change at all, but her gaze was unfamiliar and terrifying. In the past, Bei Yunj would never have such a terrifying gaze. After apologizing, Cheng Zihuai left with Cheng Shuyuan. When they went upstairs, Bei Yunj suddenly spoke. Brother. Huashidu looked sideways and raised his eyes. Yes? Chapter 117. Bei Yunj was not that stupid. She knew how much Huashidu took care of her, including that time at the Qin family's old mansion. Bei Yunj also knew that Huashidu had stayed behind to talk to him alone because of her. Why do you ask? Huashidu's gaze landed on her unwaveringly. Brother and Qin, you seem to have a good relationship, Bei Yunj said with a smile. Hearing this, those who did not know would think that Huashidu was her biological brother. However, Huashidu could hear the alienation in Bei Yunj's tone. This little fellow looked lawless, but she was actually very meticulous. Bei Yunj indeed felt that she had caused Huashidu a lot of trouble. If it was because of Qin Yu, then Huashidu might be tolerating her. But in the next moment, Bei Yunj interrupted this thought. Huashidu reached out lazily, his cold fingers rubbing away the dirt on her chin. His tone was casual. I'm not willing to bring all the children of the Qin family home. Bei Yunj was stunned and looked up at him. Yun, have some conscience. Huashidu laughed hoarsely. His eyes were so dark that even the light was hidden. He was refined and lustful. Does brother treat you well because of someone else? Room 307. Bei Yunj pushed the door open and entered. The old madam could not help but stand up and call out softly, are you all right? I'm fine. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, she saw that Huashidu had followed her in. She said to the old madam, Grandma, he's Huashidu. He's second brother's friend. Hearing this, the old madam's frown disappeared. So he was second young Master Qin's friend. Then there should be no problem. Thank you, Mr. Hua, for helping Gu out today. The old madam thanked him. Director Lin, you're too polite. After speaking, Huashidu did not disturb Bei Yunj and the old madam from catching up. He only chatted with them from time to time. Assistant Seng, who was beside him, was in disbelief. If Master Du had used even half of his patience on little young master would not cry all day long and say that he did not want to see his older brother anymore. Principal Lin, if you don't have a good place to stay now, you won't be able to find a place to stay. Why don't Junior arrange it for Dean Lin? What Huashidu said was exactly what Bei Yunj wanted to ask. There's no need to trouble Mr. Hua. I have a place to stay. The old madam was flattered. Then, she immediately smiled and shook her head. The more she looked at Huashidu, the more satisfied she was. From time to time, he glanced meaningfully at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj did not notice the look in her eyes. She was thinking about something else. Grandma, is it because of Lin Jiannan? Bei Yunj suddenly asked. The old lady had an only son named Lin Jiannan. She bullied the weak and feared the strong. She liked to take advantage of others. Previously, old Madame Fu was afraid that Lin Jiannan would do something embarrassing to ask the Qin family for alimony, so she sent Bei Yunj away in advance. The old lady felt a little guilty and uneasy. Jiannan got married this year. He's preparing to have a child. I have to help Jiannan take care of his wife. When she gives birth in the future, Jiannan's wife will have to give birth. I will also. Grandma, is it his wife or your wife? Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched and she suddenly laughed. Grandma has let your uncle Jiannan down. The old lady lowered her head subconsciously. Chapter 118. Grandma, that's an adult in his 30s. He's not even qualified to be a giant baby. Bei Yunj rubbed the space between her eyebrows and laughed again. Although the old lady opened an orphanage and did not make much profit, she was very thrifty. She gave Lin Jiannan everything that could be given to him. However, this Lin Jiannan seemed to be here to collect a debt. It was as if the old lady owed him something in her previous life. Grandma knows, but Grandma owes your uncle Jiannan. The old lady let out a long sigh, looking a little helpless and disappointed. Actually, the old lady's family background was not good in the past. She was a child who came out of the mountains. Strictly speaking, she was sold to the city. However, the old lady was lucky. When she was escaping, she was saved by a gentleman. Later, she had the chance to go to school. Therefore, the old lady's potential was discovered and she became one of the few botanists in the country. This experience was a gift from the heavens to the old lady. Therefore, the old lady donated all her savings to charities that searched for missing children. She only left a small portion of the money to open an orphanage. Suddenly, Bei Yunj said, "You gave him life and raised him into an adult. Only he owes you in this relationship." At this moment, Huashidu looked at Bei Yunj in front of him and hid the smile in his eyes. He handed the key to the single-family apartment to the old lady. Director Lin, you raised Yunyun for so many years. There are some thank you gifts that you should accept. No. How can this do? The old lady frowned and rejected him decisively. Bei Yunj blinked and quietly moved closer to Huashidu. Brother, is this your house? Yes, Yunyun, don't be embarrassed. In the future, when Yunyun grows up, you can raise me. Huashidu's tone was casual as he deliberately teased her. Bei Yunj smiled at him. Then I've really profited. Bei Yunj said that on the surface, but in her heart, she was thinking that she would have to withdraw the 3 months' salary that she had just received from the Computing Institute tomorrow to repay her debt. The salary of the top computing firms in the country was not low, and the top computing firms in our nation were even better. Although Bei Yunj was a new member of the Computing Institute, because of her outstanding professional qualities, Marcus did not treat her unfairly. Just 3 months of salary, if converted into country A's currency, would be more than 1.6 million. However, Bei Yunj also knew that the house Hushidu gave her was worth at least 10 million yuan. Otherwise, he would be letting down his status as the president of the Hua Corporation. Suddenly, Bei Yunj felt the pressure of being in debt. She glanced at Hushidu faintly without saying a word. However, unexpectedly, the old lady was also a stubborn person. She was unwilling to accept the house. In the end, it was also the first time that Bei Yunj had seen the old lady get angry. She told Bei Yunj to take good care of herself and left the private room. Bei Yunj turned to look at Hushidu, as if asking him for a solution. Seeing this, Hushidu subconsciously curled his lips and lazily unbuttoned the 2 buttons on his shirt collar. His posture was lazy and abstinent. He picked up his chopsticks and picked up some food for Bei Yunj. Let's eat. No matter who Principal Lin is angry at, she will never be angry at you. Chapter 119. Does brother know where my grandma lives? Bei Yunj knew what kind of person Lin Jiannan was. Of course, she also knew that Lin Jiannan would not take care of the old lady well. The place where the old lady lives is not very safe. I'll get someone to bring you there next time. Okay. Bei Yunj nodded. She also knew that this matter could not be rushed. In the bedroom, Bei Yunj looked at the medicine in her hand and fell into deep thought. In the past, she had seen people injected with medicine. Most of them were to alleviate their illness or suppress some kind of illness. Bei Yunj sent a message to Stephen. Stephen, I need your help with something. Can I? Soon, Stephen replied. Of course, Miss Pei. Please speak. I have a medicine. I'll go to the hospital tomorrow and check its composition. Can you help me analyze its effects? After a while, Bei Yunj saw Stephen's reply. No problem, leave it to me. Seeing this, Bei Yunj smiled and replied with a thank you. The next day, Bei Yunj had just arrived at the classroom when she felt that the atmosphere was unusually quiet. Meanwhile, her deskmate, the sleeping god, was awake with a displeased expression and flipping through the book in his hand. Bei Yunj walked to her seat and raised her eyebrows. Can you understand it? Lu Yuanxi was speechless. At this moment, many people could not help but look at Bei Yunj. They did not understand what was so good about Bei Yunj that Lu Yuanxi was so protective of her. Especially Ling Jiwei. Her eyes were red, as if she had just cried. However, when her gaze turned to Bei Yunj, it was filled with hatred and gloom. Just now, she had only said that Bei Yunj was a vampire of the Qin family and had brought her poor grandma to freeload on the Qin family's food. But in the end, she had angered Lu Yuanxi. This was the first time she had seen Lu Yuanxi so protective of a girl. He had said in front of everyone that if she had any opinions about his deskmate, she could tell him so that he would not fall out with her. At the thought of this, the sourness in Ling Jiwei's heart surged uncontrollably. Her face was filled with a mixture of jealousy and hatred. However, after Bei Yunj sat down in her seat, she began to play with her iPad. Student Pei. Chu Zhixing, who had fainted yesterday but had recovered today, called out to her in a low voice. Can you call me by my name? Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched, and she squinted at him. Chu Zhixing blushed. Yes. Classmate Pei, have you seen the school's forum? No. Bei Yunj didn't have the time to observe the social circle of a group of high school students. Chu Zhixing looked at her with some hesitation and gritted his teeth. Someone is in the tieba, Chu Zhixing. Lu Yuanxi, who had been silent all this while, coldly interrupted Chu Zhixing. However, Bei Yunj looked up at Lu Yuanxi and asked, what's wrong? You don't want little Chu to speak? When Lu Yuanxi heard this, he felt inexplicably uncomfortable in his heart. Since when did her relationship with Chu Zhixing improve? It's nothing, Lu Yuanxi said. Is there something on the tieba that has to do with me? Bei Yunj looked at Chu Zhixing. Chu Zhixing nodded heavily. Lu Yuanxi looked at the close relationship between the two of them and suppressed the discomfort in his heart. The tieba has always been quite foul. I've already contacted the administrator to delete the post. Delete what? I really want to settle accounts with that person. Bei Yunji's beautiful eyes curled up. There was no warmth in her eyes as she spoke unhurriedly. Chapter 120. With that said, Bei Yunji clicked on the forum and saw the popular post immediately. Look at the new transfer student of class 7. She's a vampire from a wealthy family. Seeing this theme, Bei Yunji leaned against the chair and laughed unconsciously. Then, she clicked on the post with interest. The original poster's post was written in a melodramatic and righteous manner. It was easy to stir up the emotions of the high school students. In the past, I didn't think that Bei Yunji was so disgusting. At most, she was just a vain girl. But now, I realized that Bei Yunji is really sucking the blood of the Qin family. My heart ached for Qin Youjiao. Her brothers were snatched away and she was even trampled on by a vampire. I just want to know, Bei Yunji, where did you get your face from? Grin, picture, second post, is this Bei Yunji's grandmother? She's dressed like this, third post, Bei Yunji is really funny. On one hand, she pretends to be aloof and doesn't like anyone, but on the other hand, she's sucking the blood of the Qin family with her grandmother. Tisk, fourth post, original poster. I didn't like Qin Youjiao much in the past, but at least she's talented and good-looking. Now that she's compared to someone, my impression of her has skyrocketed. Fifth post, the Qin family is too pitiful. What kind of stupid illegitimate daughter is this? She's evil and vicious. Sixth post, where did so many keyboard warriors come from? If this is really Bei Yunji's grandmother, I think she has a good personality. After entering the Qin family, she didn't despise the poor and love the rich. Seventh post, I think some people are stupid. After entering a wealthy family, she's going to cut ties with the person who raised her. She's so arrogant. Eighth post, there's a saint bitch upstairs. Everyone, be careful. Bei Yunji flipped through dozens of posts in the post and her beautiful eyes looked interested. However, when Lu Yuanxi saw that Bei Yunji was actually browsing through her post, he realized that he had underestimated his deskmate's mentality. Aren't you angry? Lu Yuanxi, do you know who posted this? Bei Yunji looked at him and asked curiously. Lu Yuanxi was stunned. You suspect Qin? Before he could finish his words, he stopped. Lu Yuanxi had always had a good impression of Qin Youjiao, but he could also see the conflict and estrangement between Bei Yunji and Qin Youjiao. Could I have guessed wrongly? Lu Yuanxi pursed his lips in disbelief. Bei Yunji glanced at him. Her red lips curved slightly, but her tone was indifferent. Lu Yuanxi, I'll settle my own matters. I don't hate you, but don't interfere with what I want to do. She could tell that Lu Yuanxi was a good person and treated her well. However, it was not so easy to settle the score between her and Qin Youjiao. Bei Yunji looked at the photos in the post. They only captured her face and didn't capture the old lady's face clearly. She didn't show much emotion. He was going to check the information of the poster. But suddenly, the homeroom teacher called her out of the classroom. Bei Yunji, Mrs. Qin is here to look for you. Is she your mother? The homeroom teacher asked awkwardly. When Mrs. Qin entered the office with a dark expression just now, he thought that she was here to look for Qin Youjiao's homeroom teacher. However, he didn't expect that the person Mrs. Qin was looking for was him. I don't know her. Bei Yunji said slowly. Mrs. Qin is waiting for you in the office. Do you want to go and tell her? After all, she's here. Maybe it's something urgent. The homeroom teacher had heard about the Qin family, but he didn't think too much about it. He mistakenly thought that Bei Yunji was throwing a tantrum with Mrs. Qin. Now was the perfect time to ease the tension. Chapter 121. No need. Tell her to stay away from me. With that said, Bei Yunji wanted to turn around and return to the classroom. However, she did not expect a thin and sharp voice to suddenly ring out. Bei Yunj, are you planning to embarrass the Qin family in public? Mrs. Qin's expression was livid. She had also heard the conversation clearly and gritted her teeth as she stared at Bei Yunj. This movement attracted the attention of the people in the classroom. They couldn't help but look outside. Chu Zhixing stood up abruptly and walked to the door without thinking. Seeing this, Lu Yuanxi froze for a moment before he followed him out. However, unexpectedly, the moment Lu Yuanxi went out, he saw that elegant and beautiful madam reaching out to slap Bei Yunj's face with a dark expression. Qin Youjiao, who was standing beside Mrs. Qin, watched this scene unfold without moving. Then, before anyone could react, everyone saw that slap land on Chu Zhixing's face. Seeing that she had hit the wrong person, Mrs. Qin's expression darkened even more. Who are you? Who asked you to stand in front of her? Chu Zhixing's cheek was slapped to the side by that slap. Half of his face was red and swollen, and it was burning with pain. However, he heaved a sigh of relief. It was a good thing that this slap did not land on Bei Yunj's face. However, when Bei Yunj saw that Chu Zhixing had been slapped by Mrs. Qin, the temperature in her eyes turned colder and colder. She pursed her red lips. Why are you standing in front of me? Bei Yunj had planned to let this slap fall on her face. She wanted to use this as a pretext to sever ties with Mrs. Qin. However, she did not expect Chu Zhixing to take the slap for her without thinking. How can you be hit? Chu Zhixing said instinctively. Hearing this, Bei Yunj could not help but look up at him. After a while, she chuckled. Her eyes were already beautiful to begin with, but at this moment, they were even more dazzling. Seeing this, the darkness in Qin Youjiao's eyes surged as she clenched her fists tightly. Why was there always someone protecting her? Bei Yunj, do you remember what you promised me? Mother Qin's tone was still unpleasant. She said sharply, since you don't want to stay in the Qin family. Halfway through her words, Mrs. Qin saw Bei Yunj walking towards Qin Youjiao with her own eyes. In front of everyone, she suddenly raised her hand and slapped Qin Youjiao decisively. That crisp sound was even more hair-raising than Mother Qin's slap just now. At the same time, everyone was so shocked that they didn't dare to move. However, Qin Youjiao was stunned by that slap. She covered her face instinctively and stared at Bei Yunj in disbelief. Gradually, she broke down and screamed, Bei Yunj, what right do you have to hit me? Why? Bei Yunj licked her moist red lips and said in a playful and cold tone, a woman pays for her mother's debt. She looked at Mrs. Qin calmly and lazily, admiring Mrs. Qin's angry expression that looked like she wanted to kill someone. Mrs. Qin, since I can't do anything to you, but you hit my friend, it's very fair to return this slap to your daughter. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin was so angry that she wanted to hit Qin Youjiao again, but she was afraid that Bei Yunj would hit Qin Youjiao again. She gritted her teeth and said angrily, I should have strangled you to death myself back then. Hearing this, even the others felt their hearts turn cold. These were actually words from her biological mother. Mrs. Qin, aren't you too agitated? The form teacher regained his senses and immediately stood between the two of them. Those two slaps just now were so shocking that he couldn't calm down. Chapter 122. Everything happened too suddenly. Then, the form teacher saw that there were people around them. Why don't we talk in the office first? In the office. Mrs. Qin looked at Qin Youjiao with heartache and her voice was soft. Jiao Jiao, how are you? Are you all right? Qin Youjiao glanced at Bei Yunj and bit her lip. I'm fine. Mom, don't argue with her. If Grandpa finds out. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin hated Bei Yunj even more. She could not help but laugh coldly. This was her biological daughter. Relying on the old master's love, she was fearless and lawless. How could she compare to Jiao Jiao, whom she had raised personally? Bei Yunj, don't think about not leaving this time. I told you before that as long as you see the Lin family, we will cut ties. Mrs. Qin laughed coldly again. It's okay if you want to tell the old master. I will tell everyone that Qin Youjiao is my only daughter. With that said, a voice sounded at the door. Who is it? Before the others could react, they saw a young and handsome man walking in with his long legs. He was wearing a simple black short-sleeved t-shirt and a pair of jeans, making his figure look perfect. His beautiful dark eyes were long and black. Then, Qin Yu took off his black mask, revealing his handsome and arrogant face. Seeing that it was Qin Yu, Mrs. Qin thought that he had come to school specially for Qin Youjiao. Mrs. Qin laughed unconsciously, her anger dissipating by more than half. Qin Yu, you severed ties with your family back then and didn't come home for so long. I didn't expect that because of Jiao Jiao, baby, who bullied you. Second brother will teach them a lesson for you. Qin Yu's low and magnetic voice sounded and he hugged Bei Yunj naturally, but his eyes were cold. The form teacher was speechless. Oh no, this family was ready to stand on the same side and fight in school. A few days ago, Qin Yu had come to look for him and said that he was Bei Yunj's biological brother. He told him to call him directly if anything happened in the future. However, the form teacher did not expect that the result of this call was not to stop the fight, but to stand on the same side. Qin Yu. Mother Qin's expression changed, and her voice was sharp. Are you also planning to cut ties with me? Didn't it break a few years ago? Qin Yu hooked his arm around Bei Yunj's neck and said frivolously. Bei Yunj, she could not help but look up at Qin Yu and furrow her eyebrows. Why are you here? Second brother, we can't let anyone have the chance to bully our gu-er. Qin Yu was good-looking and a little careless. His lazy posture made the girls passing by outside stare straight at him. Qin Yu was even more handsome than on television. His smile was too charming. Second brother, Mom didn't bully Bei Yunj, Qin Youjiao could not help saying. She looked at the scene in front of her and tried her best to suppress her jealousy. In the past, she had mentioned asking Qin Yu to come to school to fetch her many times. However, Qin Yu had always changed the topic and had never taken it seriously. But now, he had come again and again for Bei Yunj. Qin Yu, take a good look at the wound on Jiao Jiao's face. This was hit by Bei Yunj. Mrs. Qin was so angry that her vision darkened. It was bad enough that Qin Lang had gone crazy, but now Qin Yu was also abnormal. However, what Mrs. Qin did not expect was that there would be someone even angrier. Chapter 123. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin was so angry that she almost couldn't catch her breath. You're not going to acknowledge me as your mother, are you? Mrs. Qin was furious and looked at Qin Yu with a pale face. I'll acknowledge whoever her acknowledges. Qin Yu raised an eyebrow, as if he had remembered something. He turned around and pulled up Bei Yunj's sleeve. Are you hurt? Let second brother take a look. Qin Yu. Mrs. Qin's face was livid. What do you mean? I won't say anything if you hit Qin Lang. But if you hit I can't guarantee what I will do. Qin Yu's tone was calm and casual. After checking, he tidied up Bei Yunj's sleeves. In Mrs. Qin and the rest's impression, Qin Yu did not like to interfere in family matters, let alone protect someone like this. This scene almost made people think that Bei Yunj had drugged Qin Yu with some kind of bewitching potion. Good. Very good. Mrs. Qin was so angry that her chest was short of breath. After taking a few deep breaths and calming down, she asked again, do you know what's going on outside? Can you accompany second brother for a meal later? Qin Yu lowered his head and coaxed softly. Bei Yunj. I'm not allowed to leave the school in the afternoon. Then I'll take you out for a meal next weekend. Qin Yu smiled seductively and could not help pinching Bei Yunj's face. His sister was indeed the prettiest. Bei Yunj was silent. This Qin Yu was really much more troublesome than Qin Lang. At this moment, with a dark expression, Mrs. Qin flipped through the post and placed her phone in front of Qin Yu. Look, what did she do? Isn't she deliberately ruining our Qin family's reputation? Mrs. Qin said in disgust. However, Qin Yu took a look and his originally lazy aura instantly turned cold. His slender and good-looking fingers scrolled through the post. Very quickly, he took out his phone and called his assistant. Qin Yu's tone was cold. Check the school forum of Hengda High School for me. Find out who posted that post related to my sister. Changing the topic, Qin Yu suddenly laughed, but it made one's scalp turn numb. Then, his jade-like index finger continued to scroll through the post. He said gently, I will go through legal channels and appeal in court. No matter who bullied my sister, they will have to pay the price. In an instant, Qin Youjiao's face paled as she stared at Qin Yu in disbelief, her eyes red. In the past, brother Qin Yu would not be like this. He wouldn't be so protective of Bei Yunj and treat her so coldly. Qin Yu, do you want to embarrass the Qin family even more? Mrs. Qin glared at him in disbelief. Now, Mrs. Qin felt that Qin Yu was crazier than Qin Lang. For the sake of Bei Yunj, he didn't hesitate to publicize his relationship with Bei Yunj. If you want to end the relationship, do it as soon as possible. I'll take care of Gu. Qin Yu looked up, too lazy to reason with Mrs. Qin. Mrs. Qin's love for Qin Youjiao was stubborn to begin with. It was hard for anyone to change her mind, unless Mother Qin realized one day that her daughter wasn't worth it. Qin Yu. Mrs. Qin's face was distorted with anger. Teacher, I don't want other parents to look for my sister next time. Qin Yu turned around and started to instruct the form teacher. Okay, you're right. The form teacher stuttered nervously. She remembered that the slap had almost landed on Bei Yunj's face just now. Chapter 124. Other parents? Mrs. Qin was so angry that her body trembled. She gritted her teeth and glared at him darkly. Alright, Qin Yu. Are you mocking your own mother? Have you done your duty as a mother? Qin Yu laughed, his tone calm. Bei Yunj, who was beside him, also frowned and glanced at Qin Yu unconsciously. Although in the original novel, Qin Yu had never interfered in the Qin family's matters and she had the least dislike for Qin Yu. However, she still felt that the current Qin Yu was protecting her too blatantly. I already gave her a chance to go home. What else do you want me to do? Mrs. Qin's eyes turned red and she became agitated. The form teacher beside her hurriedly tried to calm them down. Mrs. Qin, Mr. Qin Yu, calm down. Let's talk things out. Qin Yu pressed the tip of his tongue against the side of his cheek and bit it lightly. Thinking of how Mrs. Qin did not believe that Qin Youjiao had betrayed the Qin family until she died of illness in his previous life, he could not help but close his eyes. He really did not know why. The three of them added together could not compare to Qin Youjiao in Mrs. Qin's heart. Qin Yu opened his eyes again and looked at Qin Youjiao with a cold and threatening gaze. His thin lips twitched. I'll get to the bottom of this matter on the school forum. I won't let anyone who hurts Gu off easily. With that said, sure enough, Qin Youjiao's face paled and her legs turned weak as she staggered again. This was clearly not a big deal. At most, Bei Yunj would be scolded a few times. Why did second brother want to continue investigating? Could it be, second brother was suspecting her? Impossible. Second brother grew up with her and Bei Yunj had only met him a few times. Second brother, they're all classmates. Maybe they're just joking and can't stand Pei. Gu definitely won't mind. Qin Youjiao's face was full of smiles as she forced herself to say. Can't stand her. I want to see who is so capable to not like my Gu. Qin Yu snorted, the coldness in his eyes not diminishing. However, hearing this, Qin Youjiao panicked. Second brother. Qin Youjiao was incoherent. In the end, she grabbed Mother Qin's hand and begged softly, Mom, can you ask second brother to stop investigating? Mrs. Qin subconsciously froze and looked at the daughter she had doted on since she was young. After regaining her senses, Mrs. Qin suppressed the doubts in her heart and frowned. Qin Yu, this kind of thing, I'm sorry, Mrs. Qin. You protect your daughter, but I also have to protect my sister. With that said, before Mrs. Chin could flare up, another voice suddenly sounded from the door. Teacher Wen, doesn't your school's Tieba do anything about it? Do you know what they said about my younger sister? Qin Lang's angry voice entered everyone's ears. As the form teacher, Teacher Wen's eyelids twitched as he suddenly felt powerless. This was truly a case of one trouble after another. It's like this. I just contacted Qin Yuxian. Before the homeroom teacher could finish his explanation, Qin Lang asked in an unpleasant tone. Qin Yu, what are you doing here? I'm Gu's guardian. Qin Yu glanced at Qin Lang and slowly put his arm around Bei Yunji's shoulder. You haven't graduated from university yet. What right do you have to be Gu's guardian? Inexplicably, everyone could feel that the smell of gunpowder between the two elder brothers was getting stronger. Wait a minute, who was the one who said that Bei Yunj was not favored in the Qin family? Then what was with these two? Chapter 125. Qin Lang laughed coldly. You've only met Gu 3 or 4 times. Are you more qualified than me? At this moment, the people who were passing by at the door were in disbelief. It was also their first time seeing the famous male idol of the esports scene and the best actor of the entertainment industry fighting. It was too exciting. If they could take King photo secretly, it would definitely make the headlines. But what kind of winner was Bei Yunj? The male idols in other people's hearts had to fight for her affection. The girls at the door could not suppress their excitement and were discussing noisily. On the other hand, Qin Yojiao stood beside Mrs. Qin and found that the people outside were looking at Bei Yunj with envy. The resentment in her eyes grew stronger and she could not help clenching her fists. Why did Bei Yunj come back? If not for Bei Yunj, she would still be the beloved young lady of the Qin family in everyone's eyes. But now, looking at her two brothers who almost fought because of Bei Yunj, she felt like a joke. Qin Yojiao's body was trembling slightly as she tugged at Mrs. Qin's sleeve, sobbing a little. Mom, Mrs. Qin's expression was terrible as well. She held Qin Yojiao's hand and comforted her. Her voice was filled with anger. Are you planning to embarrass the Qin family? I'm talking about you, Qin Lang. Qin Yu's expression was natural. Before Qin Lang could retort, he said slowly, I've already cut ties with the Qin family. Qin Lang was speechless. Soon, Qin Lang turned around expressionlessly. Mom, if you want, you can stop treating me as a member of the Qin family. He could even stay away from Qin Yojiao, this virus. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. However, hearing this, Mrs. Qin's expression darkened. Suddenly, the form teacher interrupted and changed the topic. Ahem, about that, we will definitely cooperate with Mr. Qin Yu to investigate the matter regarding our school forum. Okay, thank you, Teacher Wen. With that said with a smile, Qin Yu took out his phone and said politely, Teacher Wen, let's add each other on WeChat. Just contact me as Brother Bei Yunj. Qin Lang was speechless. In the next second, Qin Lang immediately pushed Qin Yu away. At the same time, he took out his phone and scanned the form teacher's QR code even faster. Add me. Before Qin Yu could refute, Qin Lang smiled slightly. Second brother, have you forgotten? Aren't you going to join the cast for the parent-teacher conference next month? Qin Yu, this brat would be beaten up sooner or later. Seeing this scene, Qin Yojiao's eyes were filled with indignation, but she could only comfort herself that in the future, the Qin family's assets would be managed by her elder brother, Qin Luyan. Big brother was mature and steady. He would never fall in love with Bei Yunj like second brother and third brother. At this thought, most of Qin Yojiao's gloomy mood dissipated. Then, Mrs. Qin said sharply, You're all protecting her, aren't you? Alright, don't regret it in the future. Mrs. Qin could not understand why Qin Yu and Qin Lang would favor someone like Bei Yunj, who was antisocial, ignorant and incompetent, and even dared to push Jiao Jiao down the stairs personally. She took a deep breath and turned to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj, we have nothing to do with each other from now on. I only have one daughter, Jiao Jiao. I'll get someone to publicize this matter. Hearing this, Qin Lang furrowed his eyebrows instinctively, but Qin Yu watched this scene lazily. Okay. It's best that Mrs. Qin doesn't regret it. Chapter 126. Bei Yunj agreed so readily that Qin Lang was a little stunned. Didn't Gu always hope that Mom would dote on her more? Regret? Mrs. Qin's gaze was distant and her tone was cold. Don't worry, it's impossible in this lifetime. At this moment, the form teacher of class 7 was even more anxious. Mrs. Qin, this is not how you teach a child. If you sever ties with her because of some small matter, all the orphanages in Yuncheng will have to line up. The form teacher persuaded, Bei Yunj is actually a very kind child. You have to care for her more, Jiao Jiao. After school, Mom will take you to meet a friend. Mrs. Qin turned around and caressed Qin Yo Jiao's head lovingly. Seeing that Mrs. Qin's attitude towards her was still the same as before, Qin Yo Jiao felt a little comforted. She smiled sweetly and said obediently, Okay, I'll listen to Mom. The form teacher was speechless. He finally understood that the internal members of the Qin family were really taking sides. Mrs. Qin treated Qin Yo Jiao as her favorite, while these two older brothers treated Bei Yunj as a treasure. The wealthy families were really messy. The form teacher took a deep breath and could only pat Bei Yunj's shoulder and say gently, Study hard. I know you're a good child. If you need any help, I'll help you. Thank you, teacher. Bei Yunj smiled. After Mrs. Qin and Qin Yo Jiao left. When are you leaving? Bei Yunj's tone was calm and there were no fluctuations. Qin Lang became nervous and could not help saying, Gu, don't take the matter of the forum to heart. I'll settle it. Fortunately, he had been paying attention to Hengda's matters. Otherwise, he did not know what kind of grievances his Gu had suffered. Bei Yunj looked up at them. After a while, she said, Actually, I didn't just want to sever ties with her today. Qin Lang and Qin Yu froze. Gu, Qin Lang's voice was hoarse and his eyes darkened. Do you really not want third brother anymore? Bei Yunj was about to say what she had wanted to say for a long time when her heart suddenly hurt. Her beautiful face suddenly paled, and a thin layer of sweat appeared on her forehead. In a hurry, Bei Yunj placed a hand on the table with difficulty and adjusted her breathing. Gu, What's wrong with you? Sensing Bei Yunj's strange behavior, Qin Yu hurriedly supported her. After Bei Yunj gradually came back to her senses, her eyes also became clear. During this time, she had been repeating the dream of the original owner. She could even clearly sense the emotions of the original owner. She dreamed that the Qin family had gone bankrupt after offending someone. Big brother's leg was broken, second brother's face was disfigured, and third brother's hand was damaged, so he could no longer compete. As for the original owner, in order to save Mrs. Qin, she had saved up a huge amount of medical fees and worked 3 jobs alone. Even Qin Lang and Qin Yu had gone to work as temporary workers. These days were hard and tiring, but to the original owner, it was the warmest time of her life. Every night, when the original owner came back, she would get snacks that her brothers bought on the way. Her brothers would secretly watch her work and slip some change into her pocket. He was afraid that she would work too hard. At the same time, he felt guilty for not giving his sister the best life when their living conditions were the best. However, even so, the original owner was very satisfied. However, things did not go according to plan. As time passed, the original owner realized that she had also contracted a chronic illness. Chapter 127. The people at the training base had asked Qin Lang to come back many times, but they wanted Qin Lang to be the coach of his former rival. Qin Lang, who had lost his ability to compete, had long become a laughingstock. At the training base, all he received was coldness and humiliation. However, for the sake of the original owner's hospitalization fees, Qin Lang still returned to the base secretly. However, 3 days after Qin Lang returned to the base, the original owner found the injuries on Qin Lang's body. After finding out that Qin Lang had returned to the club and had been beaten up, the original owner decisively cut ties with her 3 older brothers. In order to make her 3 older brothers give up, the original owner also said cold words. "I don't want to be siblings with you guys in my next life." These words made the 3 older brothers feel that the original owner was blaming them. At the same time, these words became a hurdle in Qin Lang's heart that he could not get over. However, it was because the original owner knew that her illness could only be delayed with medicine and could not be cured. Therefore, she was unwilling to become their burden. Bai Yunj took a deep breath and glanced at Qin Yu and Qin Lang. She did not have a good impression of these 2 people. However, they were the people that the original owner was willing to give up her life to protect. "I'm going to class." With that said, Bai Yunj turned and left. In the long corridor, Bai Yunj sorted out her emotions and touched her heart. She could not tell if the original owner's emotions were still in her body. Forget it. She would just meet less in the future. Bai Yunj narrowed her eyes and returned to class. "How was it? I heard that you and Mrs. Qin quarreled." Lu Yuanci asked. "Not really." Hearing this, before Lu Yuanci could heave a sigh of relief, he heard her continue, "We just cut ties." Lu Yuanci was speechless. "What's going on?" Lu Yuanci's eyelids twitched. Bai Yunj had finally returned to the Qin family. What would happen in the future if they cut ties? "We don't like each other." Bai Yunj glanced at him and did not say anything more. However, Lu Yuanci could feel that her gaze was clearly saying, "Why are you so troublesome?" Lu Yuanci shut up. Bai Yunj turned her head and looked at Chu Zhixing. "Xiao Chu, have you applied the ointment?" "No, not yet." Chu Zhixing saw Bai Yunj suddenly turn her head and pick up the cotton swab and medicine. He couldn't help but be stunned. "Come closer, I'll apply the medicine for you." As soon as Bai Yunj finished speaking, the thing in her hand was suddenly snatched away. Lu Yuanci opened the medicine bag expressionlessly. Men and women should not touch each other. After that, Lu Yuanci looked at Chu Zhixing and said, "Come here, I'll apply some medicine for you." Chu Zhixing felt a chill run down his spine. But seeing Lu Yuanci's good intentions, he could only endure the physical disgust and slowly sit in front of Lu Yuanci. Subsequently, no one knew who was the first to notice this scene in the class. Following that, everyone fell silent. They all watched as their brother Lu gently and considerately applied medicine to Chu Zhixing. Everyone had complicated expressions on their faces. Did they misunderstand? Brother Lu didn't care about Bai Yunj, but Chu Zhixing. After getting a certain answer, many boys had goosebumps. However, Bai Yunj, who was the closest, was interested. "Lu Yuanci, don't you feel that our Xiao Chu is quite good looking? If he loses weight, he'll probably look better than you." "Impossible." Lu Yuanci smiled at Bai Yunj. "No one can be more handsome than me. P.S. They're still fighting. Be good and remember to vote. Advance to the second round, 5 updates a day. Advance to the third round, 6 updates a day." Chapter 128. Before Bai Yunj could speak, Chu Zhixing retorted, "Student Pei's brother is very handsome." "Are you talking about Qin Yu?" Lu Yuanci asked. Chu Zhixing shook his head. "He doesn't look like Pei Yunj, but he's really the most handsome person I've ever seen." Lu Yuanci did not speak. He applied the medicine harder, making Chu Zhixing howl unconsciously. "It hurts, it hurts." "Be gentler." When the surrounding students heard this, they didn't want to look at the 2 boys anymore. Only Bai Yunj gave Chu Zhixing a look of appreciation. Bai Yunj rested her cheek on one hand and said with a smile, "My brother is indeed good-looking." The first thing she saw was her sexual orientation. After school, in the car, Qin Youjiao hugged Mrs. Qin's arm and whined. "Mom, can you ask second brother not to pursue that thread? what's wrong? In the morning, Mrs. Chin felt that Qin Yojiao cared a lot about the forum. That thread was posted by my friend. She might have wanted to stand up for me and didn't think too much. Qin Yojiao looked sad and her eyes were red. Mom, I don't want my friend to be sued by second brother, nor do I want the people I care about to be hurt. Hearing this, Mrs. Chin's heart softened. She patted Qin Yojiao's back lovingly and comforted her. Mom knows that Jiao Jiao is the kindest and filial. Mom will think of a way to deal with this. She paused. In the future, don't let your friend have anything to do with Bei Yunj. Qin Yojiao clenched her fists instinctively. Mom, your heart aches for her. She's my biological daughter after all. I've let her down. She took a deep breath and said calmly, however, in Mom's heart, Jiao Jiao is still the most important. 2 years ago, when Bei Yunj returned to the Qin family and old Master Qin planned to send Qin Yojiao away, Mrs. Qin already knew that she could not treat Bei Yunj as her biological daughter. In fact, because of Qin Yojiao, Mrs. Qin even developed disgust and hostility towards Bei Yunj. If even she didn't protect Jiao Jiao, would Jiao Jiao still have a place in the Qin family? As long as Mom likes Jiao Jiao the most, it's fine. Jiao Jiao doesn't care about the others anymore. Qin Yojiao hugged Mrs. Qin and said in a muffled voice. Mother Qin smiled helplessly. How can Mommy not like you? You're the child that I've loved for 19 years. 6:30 p.m. There was a heated discussion on the internet. The reason was that Mrs. Qin of the Qin Corporation had announced that she would cut off all ties with her mother. Mrs. Qin, thank you for your concern. I also have something to announce today. From now on, I, Tong Yueying, and Bei Yunj are no longer mother and daughter. As soon as this statement was released, everyone exploded. They really broke off their relationship. The rumor was actually true. I didn't expect Bei Yunj to be Mrs. Qin's biological daughter. It's such a pity that they broke off their relationship. Bei Yunj must be regretting it. Now, there's only one daughter left in the Qin family. She'll be doted on by everyone. To be honest, Qin Yojiao is more like a noble socialite to begin with. Can someone compare to her? Madam Qin did not do anything wrong. Madam Qin, don't be sad. You still have our Jiao Jiao, cute, what kind of trashy world is this? She doesn't want her biological daughter and there are people rushing to lick her boots. Among them, there were also strange comments. F***ck, these words can actually be used. She hasn't even been banned. Chapter 129. Boo-hoo, I can really use it now. I want to attack crazily. Bei Yunj, Bei Yunj, Bei Yunj, Bei Yunj, Bei Yunj. It seems like the previous incident wasn't the Qin family's doing. Then Bei Yunj is really the chosen one. Why was Bei Yunj cut off all ties with her? Let me speculate. Did Bei Yunj do something shameful? The Jiao fan upstairs, why don't you speculate about your Jiao? Bei Yunj and Qin Yojiao are both from the same school. Why does everyone think that Bei Yunj is an illegitimate daughter? Take my Jiao away. Please don't slander my Jiao. Smile. Gradually, the comments section started to scold each other. But within a few minutes. What no one expected was that there would be such a shocking reversal in this rich family drama. The first to be stunned were Qin Yu's fans. They actually saw Qin Yu, who had not updated for half a year, repost Mrs. Qin's post. Qin Yu, please pay more attention to my new work. After all, I'm going to raise my sister in the future. Picture, / Mrs. Qin. The picture was of the teddy bear that Qin Yu had given Bei Yunj. Then, a few seconds after this post was posted, hundreds and thousands of comments flooded the comments section. Ah, hubby, are you having a conflict with your mother-in-law? Hubby is the only sister he recognizes. I understand now. Sister Gu, hurry up and take a look at sister-in-law. I'm so jealous. This D***MN man really gave the teddy bear to Sister Gu, Among them, there were also passers-by who asked questions. Aren't you afraid that the Chin family will cut ties with you? Soon, Chin Yu replied. Chin Yu? I cut ties with you when I was 18. Thank you. Seeing this reply, Chin Yu's fans exploded. He's indeed the man I like. He gave up billions of assets to become a popular best actor. Hubby, don't be afraid. I'll take care of you and sister. In less than 10 minutes, Chin Yu's reposts exceeded 10,000. Chin Yojiao's fans, who had originally intended to smear Bei Yunja's reputation, had just painstakingly posted a few hundred comments. In an instant, Bei Yunja's second sister-in-law's fans flooded the post with tens of thousands of comments, and the negative comments disappeared without a trace. This scene was extremely shocking. Chin Yojiao's fans were so angry that they almost scolded her. Next. Not long after, the esports scene also started to blow up. Crush Chin Lang, do I need you to feed me? Stop dreaming. Grin, picture, Chin Yu / Chin Yu. Chin Lang's attached picture was still a chat record. Judging from the profile picture, this was the same person who had blocked Chin Lang. However, Chin Lang had changed the nickname from Gu to Rose. In this screenshot, everyone could feel that Chin Lang was blatantly showing off. He had just been blacklisted. What was there to show off? Didn't you see that she didn't even reply to your messages? A few seconds later. Before everyone could watch the show, they saw Chin Yu fighting at the front line. Chin Yu, brother, there's no need for that. Picture, everyone clicked on the picture and found that it was also a screenshot of a chat with the nickname, Gu-er. In the chat record, Chin Yu had also sent several messages in a row. However, compared to the lowly Chin Lang, Chin Yu's treatment was obviously better. Gu-er, are you going to play with second brother this weekend? Second brother has prepared a lot of food and toys. Obedient. JPG, eat claw. JPG, Gu-er, about half an hour later, the other party replied. Chapter 130. In front of the computer, Chin Lang, who had been very smug just now, froze after seeing the screenshot of Chin Yu's chat. Chin Yu, this be asterisk starred, at this moment. After watching the scene of the Chin brothers fighting for favor, the fans and passers-by exploded. Ha 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 ha, I'm sorry. I laughed too loudly. To think that Crush would have such a day. Brother Lang, don't be silent. Men have to be strong. Quick, check if your sister replied to your message. A full stop is good too. Ha ha ha. What should I do? I'm fighting with my life on the wall. Who should I help? Bei Yunj, what kind of life is this? She calls him brother and he's really willing to give her his life. Damn, I'm jealous. Jiao Jiao fans, come out. Didn't you say that your Jiao Jiao is the heart of your brothers? I don't think so. This scene indeed made Chin Yojiao's fans stomp their feet in anger. However, no one continued to speak. They all fell silent. After that, after the spectators in the esports scene finished laughing, they suddenly realized something. Wait. Rose. Isn't Crush's personal introduction a rose? F***ck, 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 it's true. All of Brother Lang's personal introductions have been changed to a rose. So, the real meaning is that he loves Rose? Ah, he's indeed a man in our esports scene. He's full of flirtatious words. I'm tempted. In the Chin residence. When Mrs. Chin saw the commotion caused by Chin Lang and Chin Yu online, she was so angry that she slammed her laptop shut. She stood up suddenly, her expression livid. What are Chin Yu and the rest trying to do? Do they have to go against me? Mr. Chin, who had just rushed back, did not look too good when he saw Mrs. Chin like this. Why did you cut ties with Gu-er without saying anything? Mrs. Chin looked up agitatedly. Do I have to acknowledge her just because I gave birth to her? Hearing this, Mr. Chin pressed between his eyebrows tiredly. No matter what did wrong, she's our child. You can favor Jiao Jiao, but I can't be impartial between Jiao Jiao and But don't you think that you're too extreme? Gu has been in the orphanage for 17 years. Actually, we should compensate her. Actually, Father Qin knew very well that they owed their biological daughter. However, as long as he saw Qin Youjiao's dim and hurt gaze, he could not make it up to Bei Yunj. Between his two daughters, he had to be fair. I've already done it, and I won't regret it. If you really care about your biological daughter, you should contact her. Mother Qin said expressionlessly. Mr. Qin glanced at Mrs. Qin, took off his jacket, and said, I'll call Gu. You. Mrs. Qin's eyes widened. Then, Father Qin said calmly, if Dad finds out, he might cut ties with you and me. Mrs. Qin fell silent when she heard this. If old Master Qin found out, he might even ask her to divorce Mr. Qin. Think about it carefully. Does Gu really make you hate her so much? I don't hate her. Mrs. Qin frowned. Mr. Qin was silent for a while before he walked out with his phone. Outside the door, Mr. Qin made 3 or 4 calls before Bei Yunj picked up. What's the matter? The girl's voice was still cold. Mr. Qin suddenly remembered that time when Bei Yunj watched Mrs. Qin and Qin Youjiao play a duet. For some reason, he could not make a sound. Chapter 131. Very good. What's the matter, Mr. Qin? Bei Yunj frowned slightly. She didn't expect Mr. Qin to call her at this time. Mr. Qin was silent for a moment. Gu, I'm your father. Hearing this, Bei Yunj, who was in the bedroom, paused for a moment before she laughed lazily. Mr. Qin, you don't want to have a daughter like me, right? Gu, it's not. Mr. Qin couldn't help but explain. Just pretend that I've never returned to the Qin family. It's good that we go our separate ways. Bei Yunj's tone was indifferent. When Mr. Qin heard this, he suddenly realized that Bei Yunj really didn't care about the Qin family. Gu, it's your mother's fault. I'll ask her to apologize to you, okay? Mr. Qin felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. The image in his mind slowly became clear. He recalled Bei Yunj's disappointment and bitterness in the Qin family and gradually turned into mockery and ridicule. Bei Yunj's red lips curled up and she said calmly, Mr. Qin, your concern is 2 years late. Gu, Mr. Qin's throat choked. Before he could say anything, the call was hung up. This made Mr. Qin stand stiffly on the spot, holding the phone in his hand. When Mr. Qin returned to the living room, Mrs. Qin glanced at him. You were rejected? Ah, Ting, you wouldn't do such a thing in the past. Mr. Qin ignored her and called his assistant. Do you still have Gu's bank card? Mr. Qin was relieved when he heard his assistant say that he still had it. He said, in the future, transfer 200,000 yuan to Gu every month. Qin Ting. What are you doing? Mrs. Qin suddenly stood up. Since she doesn't want to come back, she has to live a better life outside. Mr. Qin looked deeply at Mrs. Qin, pursed his lips, and walked upstairs. This scene made Mrs. Qin's mind a mess and her eyes turn red. Why were they all so concerned about Bei Yunj? And now they were going against her. Could it be that she had done something wrong? Mrs. Qin couldn't control her emotions. She blacked out and fainted in the living room. It was only when Mr. Qin came downstairs that he realized that he had sent her to the hospital in a panic. At the Huo residence, Bei Yunj and his 2 overseas interns were having a multi-party conversation. They had drawn up 3 directions in the field of computer science for them to choose from. Teacher, are you very familiar with these fields? A blonde boy's eyelids twitched. It's all right. If you guys like other fields, that's fine too. Bei Yunj's casual tone immediately made the 2 interns feel an invisible pressure and their scalps began to tingle. They were the top 2 interns in the batch of interns from the Computing Institute in country. Originally, they were not convinced that a foreign teacher was assigned to them. After all, our nation's computing talents had always been ahead of other countries. Why did they find them a teacher from country A? Besides, who would be willing to work on projects with their own teacher through a screen every day? However, at this moment, the two interns seemed to understand Marcus's care and trust for them. Just now, when Bei Yunj explained the coding principles to them, they began to feel the gap between them and Bei Yunj. This teacher was really good, but they couldn't understand. As two interns who had been regarded as geniuses since young, this was the first time they experienced the pain of being bad students. P.S. The PK has advanced to the second round. Chapter 132. After a long time. Before the two of them could speak, Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. We'll check on the progress in 3 days. How about that? Wait a minute. One of the interns woke up abruptly. What's the matter? The pen in Bei Yunj's hand stopped spinning. For a moment, the two interns looked at each other and found it hard to speak. Unexpectedly, after a while of silence, they heard her chuckle. Bei Yunj said unhurriedly, actually, if you really don't like me that much, you can ask Marcus to change your teacher. A few days ago, she heard Marcus say that the two interns were not very satisfied with her. The two interns were speechless. Teacher, I'm not. You've misunderstood. The intern with brown curly hair immediately explained anxiously. Yes. We don't want to change teachers. The other intern echoed. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. Then why are you throwing a tantrum? No. Teacher, we don't understand what you're talking about. Bei Yunj was speechless. Unknowingly. The atmosphere was strangely cold. In the end, Bei Yunj still asked them to choose a topic and write a summary report for her. She would teach them after she had a rough understanding of their professional standards. Our nation's computing institute. Titch, Jasmine, how are you getting along with your teacher? Did you make her unhappy? Marcus was also afraid that the two of them would anger Bei Yunj. After all, Bei Yunj was a big shot that he had painstakingly invited. Teacher Marcus, if we did, it wasn't on purpose. Titch took a deep breath. He had not recovered from the blow. Marcus's smile froze. Teacher Marcus, how's my teacher's temper? Jasmine was worried. I'm quite afraid that she'll scold me. Marcus was speechless. Was this really the most outstanding seated player in their computing institute? After the lesson, Bei Yunj, who was very quiet, went through the content that she had just taught. However, the more she thought about it, the clearer she felt that the content was. There shouldn't be anything that she couldn't understand. Hence, on this day, Bei Yunj suffered her first defeat in her life. He didn't expect that teaching students would be more difficult than doing research. Soon. Bei Yunj suddenly heard a knock on the door not far away. Who is it? Bei Yunj turned her head. It's me. Huashidu's low and magnetic voice sounded from outside the door. Hearing this, Bei Yunj stood up and went to open the door. Brother, what's wrong? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and looked at the man who seemed to have just returned and hadn't had time to take off his suit jacket. Huashidu's unwavering gaze landed on her. Have you finished your homework? I'm done. Bei Yunj walked out of the bedroom again. She raised her head and asked with a smile, Brother, did you look for me because of this? No. Huashidu stared straight at her for a while, then raised his thin lips and pinched her cheek casually. His expression was indifferent, but it made one's legs go weak. Brother came over to ask Yunyun if you want to go home with me. Bei Yunj was stunned for a moment and subconsciously met the man's seductive gaze. 10 minutes later. In the car. Huashidu looked at Bei Yunj, who was carrying a bag, and suddenly remembered that this little fellow would not be able to sleep if she did not have some of his scent. Will you not be able to sleep if you go back to the old residence with me? Chapter 133. When Bei Yunj heard this, the corners of her lips curled up unconsciously. She placed one hand on the car door and rested her chin on her hand. She turned to look at him. Her overly beautiful eyes were clear and bright. Yes. Hearing this, the man's low and magnetic laughter sounded lazy and sexy, making one's eardrums itch. Then I'll coax Yun to sleep before going back to sleep. Bei Yunj smiled. Thank you, brother. He had the face of a refined scum. Was she telling him to go back to sleep? Hoshidu, who was in the driver's seat, looked at the little girl's perfunctory smile and teased her unconsciously. He asked lightly, Yun, why is your attitude towards me so bad? Bei Yunj did not expect Hoshidu to be so observant. He was worlds apart from the straight man in school, Lu Yuanxi. But in the next moment, Bei Yunj only heard the man lecturing her lazily and frivolously. Next time, you have to be polite to me. Bei Yunj, he was really teaching her like a child. After getting out of the car, Bei Yunj walked into the Hua family's old residence. Only then did she realize how deep the heritage of a century-old distinguished family was. The Qin family was considered a well-known wealthy family in Yuncheng, but compared to the Hua family, it was indeed much worse. Master Du, old madam is already waiting in the hall. This is. When the butler at the door saw Bei Yunj, a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. This girl was really beautiful. Even though he had been in the Hua family for so many years and had seen many beautiful and thin people, this girl who came back with Master Du still made his eyes light up. Hello, my name is Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj curled her lips. The butler immediately nodded and said with a smile, Miss Pei, I'm the butler here. My surname is Li, Butler Li, go and get someone to tidy up the room next to mine, Hoshidu suddenly said. Hearing this, Butler Li immediately understood who this was prepared for. Okay, I'll go and prepare it now, Butler Li quickly said. In the living room, beside the sofa was a charming old woman. She was dressed elegantly and dressed elegantly. Old madam. Hoshidu's tone was neither fast nor slow. Oh, you still know to come back. I thought that the next time I saw you would be when I passed away. The old madam obviously had a lot of complaints about Hoshidu, but in the blink of an eye, when she saw Bei Yunj beside Hoshidu, she suddenly jumped up. What's going on? Where did you get this girl from? When the old lady saw Bei Yunj, she couldn't stop smiling. However, when she got closer and saw that Bei Yunj was still wearing her school uniform, her smile froze. She turned to Hoshidu and said, Shidu, although our family lacks a wife, you can't commit a sin. When Hoshidu heard this, he lifted his thin eyelids and glanced at old madam lightly. Hello, grandma. I am, the younger sister of brother Shidu's friend. My name is Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj's red lips curled up and her eyes curved. However, Bei Yunj did not notice that the man glanced at her with his light-colored eyes. The darkness in his eyes disappeared in a flash. So that's how it is. The old madam suddenly remembered. Wait, young lady, are you the girl who lives in Shida's house? Yes. Bei Yunj was calm. However, she did not notice that the old madam's expression had become even more complicated. Chapter 134. Just as the old madam was feeling uneasy, a soft voice suddenly sounded not far away. It was filled with surprise. Sister. Bei Yunj turned around and saw an exquisite and cute little guy running over. He held her hand and rubbed against it, feeling a little shy. Sister, why are you here? Are you here to see Momo? Hoshidu's cold and abstinent pale-colored eyes glanced at him indifferently. He sat by the sofa and reached out lazily to unbutton the 2 buttons on his collar. His temperament was light and lazy. Yes, I'm here to see Momo. Bei Yunj squatted down, hugged the little guy, and kissed him. The little guy was so happy that his cheeks were red. I knew that sister likes Momo, the man next to her suddenly sneered inexplicably. Bei Yunj turned around and saw the handsome and noble man leaning lazily on the sofa. His clean and well-defined jawline was superior, refined and frivolous. Bei Yunj snapped back to her senses and looked away without saying anything. At this moment, the old madam smiled and carried Momo over. Mo, how do you know Sister Pei? Alas is sister's pet. Mo tilted his head and said in a childish voice. I see. The old madam was still worried. She looked at Bei Yunj and was a little hesitant. He was still a high school student. No. It was too disgraceful. Thinking of this, the old madam was even angrier at Huashidu. She glared at Huashidu, who was sitting lazily beside her, and kissed Mo, my precious grandson, when you grow up in the future, don't be like your brother. If you don't have a wife, you should know not to go home. Bei Yunj, was there such a family tradition? Then, the little guy's words were shocking. Grandma, don't worry. I'll find 10 wives in the future. The old madam's hands almost trembled when she heard that. That's not necessary. At this moment. Beside her, the man who had been silent all this while, let out a low, magnetic laughter. Yun. Bei Yunj instinctively looked at Huashidu when she heard this. His gaze was fixed on her. She couldn't tell what he was thinking. Suddenly, he laughed and crooked his finger at her. Come here. It was a strange coincidence. Bei Yunj sat beside Huashidu and heard him speak calmly. Don't mind the old lady. I brought you here to change your mood. Upon hearing this, Bei Yunj was stunned. After regaining her senses, she instinctively looked up at Huashidu. Did Huashidu know that she had severed ties with Mrs. Qin? Suddenly. Mo, take sister to play. I have something to discuss with your brother. The old madam suddenly put the little fellow down and said. All right. Hearing this, the little fellow turned around and took Bei Yunj's hand to the second floor. Sister, Alice misses you too. Let's go play with Alice. All right. After Bei Yunj regained her senses, she let the little fellow hold her hand and walked all the way upstairs. After the two of them left, the old madam turned around and sat on the other sofa, looking noble and cold. What's with this little girl? Huashida's tone was light. Don't you like little girls? Bring one back and coax her. The old madam, did she like little girls? She liked her granddaughter-in-law. Chapter 135. The man could not help but chuckle. He casually opened the cigarette box and leaned lazily against the sofa. His pale-colored eyes were cold, but the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. He was refined and frivolous. What else can happen? Can he bully a little girl? Then why did you bring her to the old residence? The old madam questioned him when she heard him say that. The man flicked the cigarette ash with his finger and said casually, the little girl is not very happy. I'm thinking of ways to coax her. The old madam did not know what Huashidu was thinking, but she felt that something was wrong. Oh right, don't ask her about her family. Huashidu roughly explained a few things about the Qin family to prevent the old madam from being talkative and asking about everything. However, he did not go into too much detail. However, with the old madam's way of thinking, it was easy for her to imagine some bitter scenes and develop more affection for Bei Yunj. Seeing this, Huashidu did not explain further. Upstairs. Sister, did brother bring you here? Is sister staying at brother's place? The little guy was obviously very happy. His big obsidian-like eyes were sparkling. Yes. Bei Yunj glanced at Alas, who was tearing down the sofa. After a moment of silence, she decided to ignore him and sat on the carpet. However, when she turned around, she saw the little guy's heartache. What's wrong, Mo? Bei Yunj found it interesting and pinched his face unconsciously. The little guy said seriously, Sister, I'll secretly tell Grandma to let you stay with me. If she lived with the big devil brother, his sister would definitely be bullied and cry every day. Why? Bei Yunj was amused. She carried the little guy over and hugged him. Brother is very bad. He always bullies people. Taking advantage of Huashidu's absence, the little guy started to talk bad about Huashidu. Bei Yunj also listened with relish. Her eyes were curved, and she smiled lazily and brightly. She did not feel guilty at all. The little guy blushed and said foolishly, "Sister is so beautiful. Can I marry you in the future?" "Sister, think about it." Bei Yunj curled her red lips and said leisurely. "Sister, don't you like Momo?" The little guy hugged Bei Yunj pitifully, and his little voice was so cute that people wanted to kiss him. "I like it." Bei Yunj suddenly raised her eyebrows, her eyes beautiful and seductive. "But sister likes brother more." As soon as he finished speaking, the little guy seemed to have suffered a huge blow. He widened his eyes in disbelief. "But my brother is very bad. Nor would he kiss his sister." "Yes, Momo is right." Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows, pinched the little girl's face, and said with a lazy smile, "But at my age, I can't resist a bad and handsome brother." Hearing this, the little guy's eyes widened even more. He was petrified for a few seconds, then leaned on Bei Yunj's shoulder sadly. "But when Momo grows up, he's not as good-looking as Big Brother." Bei Yunj was also surprised. She did not expect the little girl to be sad because of this. Her eyebrows twitched, and she immediately coaxed, "Momo, what's on your table? Sister will play with you, okay?" In someone else's house, she had made someone else's child cry. Bei Yunj suddenly felt that she was not human. Okay. Chapter 136. However, not long after, there was a knock on the door. Then, Hwashidu pushed the door open and entered. "Brother. This is the sticker Grandma bought for me." The little guy was elated. Bei Yunj could tell that although the little guy said that he despised him, he actually liked Hwashidu very much. Hwashidu glanced at him and sat on the chair beside him. Under his black suit pants, his straight and overly abstinent long legs were placed casually. His gaze landed on the two children on the carpet. "Yes." Looking at Hwashidu's calm appearance, the little guy did not expect Hwashidu to play with him. However, then, the little guy thought of something again. He raised his furry head and looked at Hwashidu seriously. "Brother, can I sleep with sister today?" "No." The man rejected him without thinking. "Why?" "Sister is very bored alone." The little guy wanted to make a scene, but he was afraid that Hwashidu would throw him out. He looked angry and pitiful. "There's no reason." Hwashidu leaned against the chair casually. His tone was neither fast nor slow. It was obvious that he did not intend to reason with the little guy. "Brother isn't sleeping with sister, and you're not letting me sleep with sister." The little guy continued to shock everyone with his words. For a moment, Bei Yunj, who was playing with the sticker, subconsciously stopped. Then, Bei Yunj heard Hwashidu's deep and magnetic voice again. There was a lazy smile as it sounded in a low voice. "How do you know that brother isn't sleeping with sister?" The little guy. "Sister, is brother really sleeping with you?" After a while, the little guy tugged at Bei Yunj's sleeve, pitifully wanting to verify it. Bei Yunj reacted and her eyelids moved. "It's sister who can't sleep. Brother means to coax sister to sleep." "I see." The little guy also heaved a sigh of relief and looked like a worried little adult. "Why can't sister sleep?" "You slept too much in the past." After a moment of silence, Bei Yunj smiled and pinched his face. "But Momo also sleeps a lot. Will he often be unable to sleep in the future?" "No, Momo is still growing, so she sleeps a lot," Bei Yunj said with a smile. However, she did not notice that Hwashidu's gaze had landed on her. His light-colored pupils darkened and hid all the light. A short while later, the topic changed. However, Hwashidu could clearly feel that this child was especially clingy to Bei Yunj today. There was an inexplicable provocation in his eyes. It looked stupid and childish. Hwashidu glanced at the little fellow who was hugging Bei Yunj and acting coquettishly. "Sister has lost. She has to kiss Momo." Bei Yunj had already lost 3 or 4 rounds to the little girl on purpose. "All right." Bei Yunj laughed and kissed the little girl's cheek again. "Sister, don't lose the next round. The little guy's cheeks were pink, and his eyes were sparkling. He looked especially adorable. Momo is too amazing. Sister, fight for it. Pei Yunj supported her chin with one hand, her eyes curled up as she continued to play with the little fellow. Then this time, Momo will let sister win. After the little guy finished speaking, a sly look flashed across his eyes. He said mysteriously, Sister, come closer. I'll tell you secretly how to win. Hearing this, Pei Yunj also leaned over. Unexpectedly, the next moment, the little guy gently kissed Pei Yunj's cheek. Chapter 137. This time, Pei Yunj did not expect to be secretly kissed by a little guy. However, the little guy tilted his head and said in a cute and serious manner. Sister, remember this next time. Beautiful girls can't trust others so much. Hearing this, even Pei Yunj could not help but chuckle. His beautiful and eye-catching eyes were lazy and bright, making one's heart flutter. You're so young, but you know how to make girls happy. Pei Yunj rubbed the little guy's head and smiled. Boys have to be responsible for making girls happy. After the little guy finished speaking, he smiled at Hoshidu. Brother, am I right? Not to mention Hoshidu, even Pei Yunj could vaguely feel that the little guy's words were intentional. Brother. Pei Yunj suddenly interrupted the conversation between the two of them. Come over and help me distribute the stickers. Hearing this, Hoshidu finally stood up and walked over. He bent one knee slightly and half-squatted in front of Pei Yunj. How should we distribute them? Hoshidu's slender and well-defined hand picked up the cartoon stickers on the table. He lowered his eyes. His pupils were light, but the corners of his upturned eyes were seductive. Just distribute them according to the color. After Pei Yunj finished speaking, she started playing with the little guy beside her again. However, after Pei Yunj finished pasting the sticker, she took the card and approached Hoshidu. When she saw the untouched sticker in his hand, the corners of her lips curled up unconsciously. Brother, do you not know how to do it? Look at this. Isn't it cute? As soon as she finished speaking, Hoshidu did not say anything. Pei Yunj thought that Hoshidu was unhappy. After that, just as Pei Yunj was thinking about how to speak, Hoshidu lifted his eyes again. Hoshidu looked up again. His eyes were even darker and could not be seen clearly. Brother, you, Pei Yunj was stunned for a moment and was about to say something. Suddenly, Hoshidu reached out casually. His warm fingers gently pressed against her cheek. His fingertips purposely rubbed against her face. It was itchy and soft, and it quickly raised the temperature of her face. Hoshidu laughed lazily at the end of his voice. His low voice made people blush and their hearts race. It was ostentatious and flirtatious. Very cute. Then, she pressed her little heart against Pei Yunj's face. In an instant, Pei Yunj froze. She was asking if the card she pasted was cute. But this man was looking straight at her. Obviously, he wasn't talking about that card. What was wrong with this man? Pei Yunj said a few words casually before she left the bedroom and went downstairs to drink water. At this moment, the little guy looked at Hoshidu and had just reacted. Brother, you're cheating. Hoshidu was in a good mood when he saw the young girl escaping just now. Even when he looked at the little fellow, the corners of his lips curled up. Brother, you. Sister, the little guy was so angry that he was incoherent. His bun-like face puffed up and he finally asked the complete question, Big brother, what were you doing just now? Weren't I learning from you to make your sister happy? The handsome and dignified man's posture was light and his tone was blatantly flirtatious. He spoke without blushing or skipping a beat. The little guy wanted to say something but hesitated. He had just secretly kissed her. In comparison, it seemed like his brother had not done anything. However, he could clearly feel that his sister's attitude towards his brother was different. Chapter 138. Child. Hoshidu suddenly spoke. When the little guy heard this, he looked up at him. Who knew? Washido walked in front of him and squatted down on one knee lazily, looking at the little guy at eye level. He slowly picked up the wet towel on the table and wiped the pen marks on the little guy's arm. You're not as good looking as me. She won't like you. So, be good. Sister won't care about you, understand? Instantly, the little guy with exquisite and cute eyes widened his eyes. Not long after, tears slowly welled up in his eyes. Sob, 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 brother, you're lying. The little fellow was crying very sadly, but the handsome and noble man didn't have any sense of shame. All right, stop crying. He took a few more pieces of tissue from the table and slowly wiped the little guy's tears. You're even uglier this way. As soon as he finished speaking, the little guy cried even more heart-wrenchingly. Even the old madam downstairs thought that something had happened and rushed downstairs. She happened to bump into Bei Yunj, who was about to open the door. Then, the moment Bei Yunj pushed open the door, the two of them saw the little guy crying miserably at the side. Brother, what's going on? Bei Yunj did not expect to see this scene as soon as she came over after drinking water. It's okay. Old madam will coax him. Let's go. I'll show you the room. Hoshido left with his people with a clear conscience. When Bei Yunj thought about how the little guy had cried so miserably just now, she still could not come back to her senses. Suddenly, the man in front stopped in his tracks. Bei Yunj did not come back to her senses and bumped into him. Bei Yunj was in pain from the collision. Fortunately, the man in front of her protected the back of her head with one hand and did not let her fall back. However, then, Bei Yunj heard the man's magnetic voice with a smile above her head, as if he was deliberately teasing her eardrums. Yun, I can't stand you throwing yourself at me like this. Brother, I think I have a nosebleed. Yun, listen to me. Look up. Bei Yunj sat on the chair and raised her head, allowing the man to treat her wound. However, she could still hear the low laughter in the man's deep and magnetic voice. Why was this man's chest so hard? Made of stone. Fortunately, Hoshido had just turned around and supported her. Otherwise, she might have been injured from the fall. Why are you looking at me like that, Yun? The man's slender fingers replaced the blood-stained cotton ball. Does it still hurt? Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched unconsciously when she saw the lazy and seductive smile on the man's face. Brother, is it that funny? You've been smiling. Bei Yunj casually stated the truth. No, my heart aches for Yun. After Hoshido dealt with Bei Yunj's injuries, he looked at the girl sitting obediently on the chair with an expressionless face. He could not help but turn his face away and smile. The little girl was really cute. However, Bei Yunj, who saw this scene, did not think so. Bei Yunj, indeed, this man's words could not be trusted. You can go out first. Bei Yunj's nose bridge hurt when she looked at Hoshido now. Don't you want me to coax you to sleep? Hoshido thought that the little girl's pride was hurt, so he restrained the smile on his lips and said patiently. Chapter 139. Are you angry? I didn't laugh at Yun. I just think that Yun is cute. Hoshido's straight and ascetic long legs were squatting lazily. His pair of pale-colored eyes were cold, but the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. This refined and frivolous appearance seemed to have a hint of indulgence. It made one's heart flutter uncontrollably. No. I can sleep. I don't need brother to coax me. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, Hoshido thought of the gift Chinyu had given her. He glanced at the backpack Bei Yunj had brought and the smile at the corners of his eyes disappeared. He was still careless. I understand. Hoshido glanced at the little girl, whose nose bridge was slightly red, and suddenly laughed softly, his voice lingering at the end. That's good too. I'll go back first. Otherwise, I won't be able to explain myself if the old madam sees me in the middle of the night. Those who don't know might think that I'm seducing the little girl on purpose. Bei Yunj was speechless. It was indeed difficult to explain a nosebleed in the middle of the night. Especially when the man sitting beside her looked like this. "Good night, brother." Bei Yunj looked up and said. Hwashidu looked at Bei Yunj's inexplicably obedient appearance after she was injured. He could not help but reach out and scratch her chin lazily. "Okay, good night, little Yunyun." However, no one had expected that before Hwashidu reached the door, he would hear the old madam talking to the maid. Hwashidu's eyes darkened and he turned off the lights. The room was plunged into darkness. Where is she? The little girl isn't in the room. The old madam was puzzled. Didn't Shidu bring her here? Maybe she went to walk in the garden. Old madam, don't worry. Butler Lee has tidied up carefully. He definitely won't make Miss Pei unhappy. Aren't I just feeling guilty? The old madam sighed. How old is this little girl? Hwashidu, who was in the room, heard the old madam's words and his thin eyelids lifted. At this moment, the conversation outside had not ended. However, Hwashidu also felt that Bei Yunj had suddenly approached. However, there was no movement after that. The old lady outside started nagging again, but since I've already brought him here, I can't just send him back. This young lady. I actually quite like her. Old madam, your worries are groundless. Why would Master Du lay his hands on a little girl? The maid laughed. Sigh. Forget it. I can't be bothered with his matters anymore. After saying that, the old lady left with a stomach full of resentment. Shortly after, just as Hwashidu was about to turn on the lights, a layer of warmth covered the back of his hand. It was the little girl's hand. A moment later, Hwashidu turned on the lights and realized that Bei Yunj was gradually relaxing. Little girls are afraid of the dark. Hwashidu suddenly recalled the last time at the Chin family's old residence. The young lady's eyes were blocked by her hat and she subconsciously grabbed his clothes. Big brother, rest early too. Bei Yunj obviously didn't want others to know about this. Alright. Hwashidu's eyes landed on Bei Yunj unwaveringly. Then, the corners of his lips curled up and he turned to leave. A few minutes later, there was a knock on Bei Yunj's bedroom door. When she opened the door, it was the little guy in his pajamas. He was holding a little rabbit nightlight in his hand. His eyes were black and bright as he stood in front of her adorably. Why are you looking for big sister? Bei Yunj chuckled unconsciously and squatted down to look at him. Chapter 140. Is it Momo's little bunny? Yes. Bei Yunj watched as the little guy slipped into her room. He found a power source at the bedside and placed the little bunny by the bed with familiarity. After the power source was connected, the little bunny emitted a gentle white light. Even the atmosphere became inexplicably warm and cute. After seeing his masterpiece, the little fellow looked at Bei Yunj happily and hugged Bei Yunj's leg, acting coquettishly. This way, the little bunny will protect sister on behalf of Momo. Sister won't be afraid. Bei Yunj was almost melted by the little guy's cuteness. She squatted down, hugged the little guy, and kissed him. Thank you, Momo. What should I do if Momo doesn't have a little bunny? Sister can't take a child's things. Momo is a man, not a child. Girls will always be children, so sister is a child. After Momo finished speaking in a childish voice, he took the opportunity to kiss Bei Yunj and ran out with a red face. Bei Yunj couldn't help but support her chin with one hand. She looked at the place where Momo had left and smiled until her eyes curved. Did this family learn how to flirt with people from their family? At the corridor. Brother, I've already given the little bunny to sister. Sister won't be afraid anymore. Leaning against the wall, the tall and handsome man with long legs casually hummed in acknowledgement. Then, he leaned closer and pinched the little guy's cheeks. Yes, well done. After being praised by his brother, the little guy was even happier. He skipped back to his room. Hwashidu's slender and good-looking hand flicked the lighter. The light sound was cold. He glanced at the door of the room where the light was weak. His low and lazy laughter made people's hearts ripple in the night. Then, he turned and left the long corridor. Late at night. In the hospital. What's going on? What's going on? The hospital was in a state of panic and bustle. It seems that the nurse took the wrong medicine. Old Mr. Chin in the private ward on the 5th floor is currently undergoing emergency treatment. The doctor's expression did not look too good as he explained to the director. How could she take the wrong medicine? Investigate, quickly investigate. The dean roared when he heard this. If something were to happen to old Master Chin in his hospital because of this, wouldn't his future be over? We're already investigating. Old Mr. Chin's family. Do we need to inform them? It was the young doctor's first time encountering such a situation. Of course. Hurry up and go. The dean almost fainted from anger. Yes, yes. It was 3 or 4 in the morning. The Chin couple arrived at the hospital first with Qin Youjiao. Then, Qin Lang and Qin Yu rushed over. Qin Yu, who was recording a late-night program, did not even have the time to take off his earpiece. His breathing was chaotic. What's going on? How's Grandpa? Qin Yu asked. Mr. Chin, Mrs. Chin, I'm really sorry. This is our hospital's negligence. The director blamed himself. It's because the nurse in our hospital gave old Mr. Chin the wrong medicine, so, what did you say? Qin Yu's gaze turned cold first. How could such a big hospital make such a mistake? I'm very sorry. This is our hospital's negligence. We will try our best to save Mr. Chin. I hope nothing will happen to him. Qin Yu was silent for a moment. Investigate. Investigate everything clearly. What exactly happened? Okay, the dean was also shocked. But about half an hour later, they found the reason. Chapter 141. Director, Mr. Chin, look, the young doctor's expression was ugly as he passed his phone to them. The topic was at the top of the trending searches. Hashtag Qin Lang's anti-fan. Hashtag the reason was that an anti-fan of Qin Lang had hacked into the hospital's security system. He had first changed old Master Chin's medicine, then provoked the hospital's official account and openly announced it to everyone. He even announced that as long as he was around, Qin Lang could forget about living a good life in the future. There were many such anti-fans overseas, but there was almost no such thing in the country. But now, Qin Lang's eyes turned red and he could not help gritting his teeth and clenching his fists. This be asterisk starred, if he hated him, then he would attack him. What right did he have to harm his family? Qin Lang, don't think too much. We will investigate this matter properly. Qin Yu patted his shoulder. It's still my fault. Qin Lang took a deep breath, his eyebrows still furrowed and his tone could not hide the self-blame. When Qin Lang first entered the industry, there were even more anti-fans than fans. They all said that Qin Lang had entered the industry with his backing, but in fact, the Qin family had never cared about Qin Lang's matters. It was Qin Lang who slowly stood up. Therefore, Qin Lang had proven himself countless times through competitions and obtained first place in many world-class competitions. But even so, the anti-fans had never acknowledged Qin Lang's ability. In fact, there were many people who acted crazily. It was as if they wanted Qin Lang to disappear from this world. Blame you for what? I have more anti-fans than you. Don't be pretentious here. With that said, Qin Yu could not help but glance at the operating theater where the surgery was ongoing. He took a deep breath unconsciously. Let's wait and see first. The old master will definitely be blessed. As for the rest, go and report it the next day. Okay. When I find out who it is, I will definitely kill him. Qin Lang's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. However, Qin Youjiao, who had been silent by the side, felt a sense of comfort and even strangely happy. Bei Yunj was in the Qin family and no one could touch her. Wasn't it because she had old Master Qin's support? If something happened to old Master Qin this time, what right did Pei Yunj have to show off in front of her and the Qin family? Not long after, Qin Youjiao regained her senses and realized how scary her thoughts were. However, when she thought about how old Master Qin doted on Bei Yunj, the resentment in her heart rose again. As long as old Master Qin was fair, she wouldn't have to hide outside and stay in a hotel every time she returned to the old residence. She was even worried that others would find out that she was not the biological daughter of the Qin family. Qin Youjiao took a deep breath, her eyes cold. Then she looked at Mrs. Qin and said gently and obediently, "Mom, that person doesn't seem to want to let third brother off. Should we get someone to guard Grandpa? That's a hacker. It's useless for him to guard Grandpa." Mr. Qin rubbed his forehead. How could their Qin clan encounter such a thing? Qin Lang and I will ask around. If we hire someone at a high price, we should be able to contact them. Actually, Qin Yu had no thoughts either. If they didn't catch this anti-fan, they would never know how crazy he was. Then should we tell Bei Yunj about this? Qin Youjiao suddenly asked. She's still young. There's no need. When Grandpa wakes up, let her come and take a look. Mr. Qin knew how good the old master was to Bei Yunj. It was very likely that he would make Bei Yunj nervous. Okay. A dark glint flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes. Chapter 142. However, the next day. Early in the morning. Just as the Qin family started to investigate, something happened on the internet. Old Master Qin's medical records were hacked by anti-fans and the hospital's official account was published online. They even openly provoked Qin Lang. "Yunqing Hospital, why don't you die? Then I'll let your family off," crushed Qin Lang. In an instant, this matter caused a sensation on the internet. At the same time, it angered many fans who couldn't help but scold him online. "Why don't you go and die? You won't even let Grandpa Qin off. You're not an anti-fan, you're a pervert, do you think you're disgusting? I'm convinced. Is this something a human would do? Although I'm also an anti-fan of Qin Lang, this wave is too tragic for Qin Lang. Grandpa is even worse. Maybe he's still laughing. The Qin family has been played by him to this extent. If we scold him online, he probably thinks that we're clowns. Thinking of this, I'm even angrier. Brother Lang, don't listen to him. We'll always be here. Protect Grandpa and take care of yourself," crushed Qin Lang. Then, after this incident, the technical department of the social media company immediately informed the vice president and the senior management. However, after the vice president heard this, he only felt that this matter was very ridiculous. He had a look of disbelief. What lunatic? Was he a fool? Someone actually dares to touch the Qin family these days. He didn't know which research institute Bei Yunj was the big boss of. "Vice President, should we interfere in this matter?" the head of the technical department asked carefully. After all, someone who could hack the hospital's security system and even openly provoke the Qin family online was definitely not someone to be trifled with. If they helped the Qin family, this person would turn his attention to them. To them, it would be asking for trouble. Yes. Go and delete all the posts about old Master Qin. Don't let any related posts pass. The vice president scolded angrily, "Stupid media, how dare you eat human blood?" The head of the technical department was speechless. You have the cheek to criticize others. Vice President, you know Bei Yunj? The head of the technical department immediately remembered that the vice president had asked them to deal with Bei Yunj's post. How can I be so lucky? The vice president said faintly. In the living room of the old residence, the atmosphere was silent. After a long time, Qin Lang could not help but lower his head and curse. His 10 fingers scratched his short silver-gray hair impatiently as he gritted his teeth. If this bastard hates me so much, why didn't he come out and stab me? Qin Lang, calm down. Grandpa's life is no longer in danger, so he'll be fine. Seeing that Qin Lang's eyes were slightly bruised, Qin Yu reached out and patted his back, comforting him with a frown. But this beast doesn't intend to let Grandpa go. In the wee hours of the morning, Qin Lang couldn't hold it in any longer. He publicly told the anti-fans on the internet that if they had any problems, they could come at him and not his family. However, the person who did this obviously hated Qin Lang to the core. Early in the morning, he provoked Qin Lang again. That's strange. I just posted a lawyer's letter on Grandpa's message, and only then were a few marketing accounts willing to delete it. Why are they all gone now? Qin Yu was slightly surprised. However, when Qin Lang heard this, he didn't ask further. He still couldn't lift his spirits. Suddenly, Qin Yojiao said, I just sent a message to a friend of mine. His father is the vice president of the platform. Maybe he helped to delete it. Chapter 143. You're indeed my good daughter. At this time, only you can help. Mrs. Qin was very touched. Even Mr. Qin, who had been deliberately distancing himself from Qin Yojiao recently, had a flash in his eyes and his gaze on Qin Yojiao became gentle. Thank you for your hard work, Jiao Jiao. Qin Yojiao smiled and glanced at Qin Yu and Qin Lang beside her. There's no need to thank family members. However, Dad, Mom, if you want to thank me, you can wait for my friend to come over later and thank him personally. You're such a smart child. Mrs. Qin could not help but laugh and pinch her nose. But it's a good thing that you're here this time. Qin Yojiao smiled as a strange and smug glint flashed past her eyes. So what if Bei Yunj returned to the Qin family? She still couldn't compare to her in anything. As long as her brothers and parents found out that she was the most useful daughter, Bei Yunj would still be abandoned. Soon. A voice suddenly sounded at the door. Is Yojiao here? Hearing the familiar voice, a smile immediately appeared on Qin Yojiao's face. She immediately walked to the door and smiled at the handsome boy. Lin Jun, you're here. My parents wanted to thank you. Come in quickly. Hearing his goddess say this, Lin Jun immediately felt like he was on cloud 9. However, confusion quickly rose in him. Wait a minute, why was she thanking him? Before Lin Jun could ask clearly, Qin Yojiao pulled him enthusiastically and walked to Mrs. Qin and Mr. Qin. Dad, Mom, this is Lin Jun, Vice President Lin's son. Qin Yojiao's attitude towards Lin Jun was very intimate. She knew that Lin Jun liked her. But if it wasn't for the fact that she could use him this time, she would have ignored Lin Jun. Student Lin, thank you very much this time. You've helped our Qin family a lot, Mrs. Qin said with a gentle and dignified smile. But then, Lin Jun, who was still nervous just now, immediately sobered up when he heard Mrs. Qin's words. Wait, Auntie Qin, what do you mean? When did I help you? Stop pretending. I know you did it. If you didn't plead with Vice President Lin, why would my grandfather's posts be deleted? Qin Yojiao said with a smile. Who knew? When Lin Jun heard this, he took a step back and immediately explained, how can this be something that I can control? If my dad had listened to me, I wouldn't have had my allowance deducted for 3 months. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the living room fell into a strange silence. Then what's going on? Mr. Qin was the first to speak. Could it be that someone was secretly helping them? What do you mean what's going on? Isn't there someone in your Qin clan who's especially powerful? Even my dad warned me not to offend your family and not to provoke people who shouldn't be provoked. Lin Jun was confused. Did this family not know that there was a big boss in their family? Who are you talking about? Qin Yu suddenly asked. Lin Jun, I don't know. My dad won't tell me. He just told me to be smart and not get into trouble all the time. This time, everyone in the Qin clan fell silent. Qin Yojiao's face flushed red and her hands clenched into fists. She didn't expect this to have nothing to do with Lin Jun. Oh, Yojiao, you don't have to ask me for help. That big boss in your family will definitely be more useful than me if he just says something to my dad. Lin Jun said straightforwardly. However, hearing this, the Qin family was even more confused. Chapter 144. A.M. Computing Institute. Old master, you'll be so happy now. The young man ran towards Zhong Xinglin excitedly. You're the one who's dead. With his hands behind his back, Zhong Xinglin watered the flowers expressionlessly. Something happened to the Qin family. Didn't you always want to know about the big boss of Marcus Computing Institute? This time, I don't believe that, he won't come out. With that said, the young man told Zhong Xinglin about what had happened to the Qin family. However, Zhong Xinglin slapped the back of his head immediately after hearing this. Are you stupid? At this time, old Master Qin is still in bed and you're talking nonsense? The young man was a little dazed from the slap. Then, he said aggrievedly, isn't that big boss here? What if he was just helping out when he saw injustice last time? Go and contact Bei Yunj quickly and ask her if she needs help. Zhong Xinglin took a deep breath. He really felt that if there were a few more such members, he would be so angry that he would have an epilepsy. Okay. Then I'll ask Miss Pei out immediately. Then, in just one morning, that person started to post the personal information of the third son of the Qin family, the Qin couple, and Qin Youjiao online. Although the relevant departments were already investigating, such a technical crime was not so easy to solve no matter which country it was. Besides, this person's goal was obvious. He wanted to drive Qin Lang crazy. Until the afternoon. Bei Yunj happened to be in the cafe, checking the reports sent by the interns in advance. She pressed between her eyebrows, her expression calm and composed, but her fingers that kept tapping on the table exposed her emotions. Teacher, are you all right? Tich, who had short brown curly hair, asked carefully. Then, teacher, what do you think of what we did? Jasmine asked excitedly. Bei Yunj's eyelids moved and she thought for a moment before she asked, do you want to do another one? Tich and Jasmine were speechless. Whether it was in her previous life or this life, Bei Yunj had indeed only interacted with the top figures in the computing industry. It was obvious that it was Bei Yunj's first time seeing such a standard of reporting. However, Bei Yunj didn't say much. He just continued, let me help you sort out your thoughts first. Tich and Jasmine heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that. Fortunately, they were not asked to change teachers. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing, but then, unexpectedly, Bei Yunj discovered that someone was trying to hack into her computer when she was halfway through her speech. Seeing this, Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and a trace of interest flashed across his eyes. Wait a moment. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, he did not hang up the call. Teacher, what happened? Jasmine was worried. It's nothing. Someone is trying to access my personal information. Bei Yunj spoke slowly as her slender fingers danced across the keyboard. Her fingers moved so quickly that no one could see them clearly. Tich and Jasmine, who was it that didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and dared to offend their ancestors? Teacher, do you want me to help you deal with him? Since he dares to provoke our teacher, I guarantee that he will cry until his life ends. Jasmine asked with a grin. All right, don't bother with him. Continue with the class. Bei Yunj was not in the mood to bother with him today. After dealing with the person who hacked her computer, she prepared to continue with the class. At this moment. Chapter 145. In the past, when they were teenagers, they also liked to hack into other people's computers to give them a sense of satisfaction. But this was the first time they saw someone solve the problem so easily. Suddenly, Tich and Jasmine remembered that Marcus had proudly said that Bei Yunj had deliberately hacked their website in order to join their computing institute. If it was someone else, Marcus would have already twisted their head off. Sure enough, big shots were always given special treatment wherever they went, soon. Tich and Jasmine restrained their thoughts and tried their best to keep up with Bei Yunj's teaching ideas. At this moment, a certain young man, who thought that he had successfully hacked into Bei Yunj's computer, smiled smugly. There was nothing worth looking forward to in this Qin family. It was really too easy. Suddenly, the young man did not have time to be smug for long. When he asked for Bei Yunja's personal information, the computer screen went black. This sudden turn of events caused the young man to be unable to react in time. What? After the young man reacted, he immediately typed on the keyboard. 2 hours later, the young man finally solved it with great difficulty. Before he could heave a sigh of relief, he realized that the computer had been implanted with a virus. F***CK. The young man's eyes were red and gloomy. Obviously, he had never encountered such a reverse manipulation. This kind of humiliation was simply strangling his neck and slapping his face. The project guidance ended. Bei Yunj felt very novel at the thought of someone trying to hack her computer information. This kind of thing had never happened in her previous life. Then, just as Bei Yunj collected her thoughts and was about to go back, someone called out to her from behind. Miss Pei. Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes moved. She turned around and saw a young man rushing over. This was the member of the A.M. Computing Institute that she had seen in school before. Excuse me, what's the matter? Bei Yunj's tone was leisurely, which stunned the young man. Miss Pei, you seem to be very calm. Seeing the young man's surprised expression, Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. What do you mean? So many things have happened in Miss Pei's family. Why does it seem like she doesn't know anything? The young man looked at her strangely. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched unconsciously, but she remembered that old Master Qin was still in the Qin family, so she could only ask. What happened? After hearing this, the young man realized that Bei Yunj really didn't know anything. Then, he remembered the rumor online that Bei Yunj and Mrs. Qin had broken off their relationship, and he seemed to understand the reason behind it. After coming back to his senses, the young man told Bei Yunj what had happened to the Qin family recently. Bei Yunj's eyes flashed with coldness when she talked about how the anti-fans had replaced old Master Qin's medicine and almost caused him to fall into a critical condition. That. Miss Pei, I'm here to ask if you need any help. This kind of thing is actually not difficult. Before the young man could finish, he heard Bei Yunj say casually. Thank you, Mr. Zhong. I'll visit you when I'm free. I will take care of this matter. After saying that, Bei Yunj thanked the young man again and left. When the young man saw this scene, he opened his mouth and couldn't help but whistle in a sloppy manner. Girls these days are too cool. At the hospital. Chapter 146. Miss, may I know where the director is? At this critical juncture, the nurse was wary of Bei Yunj. Miss, may I know why you're looking for the director? Bei Yunj suddenly laughed when she heard this. She rested her chin on one hand and raised her beautiful eyes. Are you afraid that I'm a bad person? For a moment, the nurse was a little dazed. Before she could react, Bei Yunj reached out and drew circles on the back of the nurse's hand with her index finger. Her eyes were clear and seductive. Don't do that, Mississippi. I won't cause trouble. The director is on the 4th floor. He's usually very busy. Don't let me get scolded. The nurse's heart softened and she said helplessly. Thank you, Mississippi. Bei Yunj's lips curved upwards. She didn't know how the milk candy appeared out of nowhere. She gently placed it in the nurse's hand and walked in. In the director's office. Bei Yunj knocked on the door and walked in. Who are you? The director looked up and couldn't help but frown when he realized that it wasn't a medical staff member. Old Mr. Qin, that's my grandfather, Bei Yunj said unhurriedly. The director's frown eased and his tone became gentler. Miss, the hospital will do our best to take care of your grandfather. Don't worry. I want to take a look at your security system. Bei Yunj interrupted. The director was stunned. After a while, Bei Yunj was already sitting in front of the computer in the control room. The technician beside her couldn't help but look at the director with a complicated expression. He seemed to find this ridiculous. The person who hacked their hospital was obviously a computer expert. What was the director thinking? Why did he bring an 18 or 19-year-old girl here? The technician frowned. Miss Pei, what are you, I don't have to help you change it. Bei Yunji's tone was lazy and emotionless. Even if she didn't enter their system, she could still protect old Mr. Qin. When he heard this, he instinctively shut his mouth and quietly watched Bei Yunji modify the system for about 10 minutes. Alright, the system will inform you if there are intruders next time. With that, Bei Yunji walked towards the door. Hearing this, the technician's expression changed. He immediately sat in front of the computer and opened the system. In her previous life, many companies were willing to spend tens of millions to hire Bei Yunji to maintain the security of their systems. At the door of the ward, before Bei Yunji could get close, she saw Qin Youjiao and Qing Zihuai hugging each other. Like a haunting ghost, Bei Yunji raised her thin eyelids. She was about to walk around the two of them and push open the door of the ward. However, she suddenly heard Qin Youjiao shout, "Bei Yunji, how did you know that something had happened to the Qin family?" These words automatically excluded Bei Yunji from the Qin family. Bei Yunji snorted lazily. She pressed the doorknob and pushed the door open. From the beginning to the end, he ignored Qin Youjiao. This made Qin Youjiao's expression change again and again. "Bei Yunji, she..." Qin Youjiao gritted her teeth. If Qing Zihuai wasn't here, she definitely wouldn't let Bei Yunji off. This is the first time I've met someone as ignorant, incompetent, and arrogant as her. Qing Zihuai's tone was disdainful as he said coldly. However, at the thought of Huashidu, who had helped Bei Yunji last time, she felt even more unbalanced. Her pride was slightly hurt. How did she manage to hook up with such a man? "Zihuai, why do you think Dad, Mom, and I were pranked by anti-fans? Why is Bei Yunji completely fine? P.S. Even if you don't meet the requirements, you'll still update 5 times a day. You'll update at least 4 times a day and basically at 9 in the evening." Chapter 147. Qin Youjiao asked again, could this matter be related to Bei Yunji? How is that possible? Qing Zihuai laughed mockingly. Does she have the ability to do that? Instantly, Qin Youjiao froze and could not refute Qing Zihuai. She forced a smile. That's true. In the ward, the Qin family was having a discussion. That person said that he will visit Grandpa again at 10 o'clock. Qin Yu's eyes darkened and his arrogant and handsome eyes were filled with a faint coldness. What other good news could there be for this visit? Didn't he just want to do something to old Master Qin again? This time, I'm really afraid that something will happen to Grandpa. Second brother, have you contacted anyone? Qin Lang looked at old Master Qin, who was unconscious not far away. His hands were trembling slightly. Last time, Grandpa was already in a dangerous state. He did not know what this B*** would do next. No one is willing to take it. But for the past few days, Grandpa's medicine was personally prescribed by the doctor. He should be fine. Qin Yu pursed his lips, his expression a little pale. This was a matter of life and death. Although many people wanted to take the Qin family's huge reward, they were also afraid that if something really happened to old Master Qin, not only would their reputation be ruined, but they would also be punished by the Qin family. After all, this matter had already blown up. Who didn't know how powerful this anti-fan was? If it really doesn't work, I'll go and issue a statement now. Actually, I should have left long ago. A mocking smile appeared on Qin Lang's lips. He picked up his phone again and prepared to publicly leave the industry. Qin Lang, he might not let you off even if you do this. Qin Yu held his hand and a trace of struggle flashed past his eyes. Actually, someone might be able to help us. Who? Qin Lang looked at him. Qing Zihuai. He's currently interviewing for the A.M. Computing Institute. Perhaps, he can help us get in touch. Qin Yu took a deep breath, his voice a little hoarse and his eyes filled with self-mockery and bitterness. In his previous life, their Qin family was ruined and no matter how they begged the Qing family, they could not get any help. He never thought that he would still have to beg the Qing family this time. At this moment, Qin Lang also fell into silence after hearing this. His eyes were red. Second brother, since I'm the one who caused this, I'll look for Cheng. Suddenly, a lazy and clear voice interrupted their conversation. Tell the people outside to stay away from my old man. Annoying. After Bei Yunj walked in, he didn't raise his head to look at any of them. Instead, he sat down next to the old man, crossed his legs lazily, and opened his laptop. Why are you here? A trace of surprise flashed past Qin Yu's eyes, before he fell into uneasiness. Would Gu blame him? Did she think that not telling her about this meant that she didn't treat her as family? I miss old master. Bei Yunj glanced at the old man beside her. Seeing that the old man was sleeping as usual, she was relieved. A trace of coldness flashed through her eyes, and a faint smile appeared on her face. In this day and age, everyone was very bold. Bei Yunj hid the emotions in her eyes and leisurely reached out to cover old Master Qin with the blanket. What are you doing here? Mrs. Qin's tone was bad. Mr. Qin frowned and interrupted Mrs. Qin. Gu is the most qualified to come. She's Dad's favorite child. But what's the use of that? Did you hear what Bei Yunj said? She told Zihuai to stay away from the old man. Mrs. Qin laughed coldly. Chapter 148. Even if father is so good to Bei Yunj doesn't care about father's safety. Mother. The three of them interrupted Mrs. Qin at the same time, their voices filled with disapproval. This scene made Mrs. Qin's eyes widen in disbelief. Then, she sneered. Great, now all of you are feeling sorry for Bei Yunj. But am I wrong? She can't compare to Jiao Jiao in anything and will only cause trouble for the Qin family. As soon as she finished speaking, the smile on Bei Yunj's lips did not change. She was still in a lazy posture. But at this moment, no one expected a weak voice to sound from the bedside. Nonsense. No one can compare to my Gu. At the same time, even Bei Yunj paused. Mrs. Qin and the rest turned to look at old master. Father, you're awake. Mrs. Qin's expression was a little bad. I heard everything you said just now. I just couldn't open my eyes. The old master's tone was still very weak. His face was pale, but his expression was cold. Go out. I have something to say to Gu. Father. Mrs. Qin was a little indignant. Qin Ting, if you can't manage your wife well, take her with you. The old master looked at Mr. Qin, clearly angry. This time, Mrs. Qin had criticized Bei Yunj in front of the old master. It was obvious that she had violated the old master's taboo. Mrs. Qin's face was pale. In the end, she was still taken away by Mr. Qin. Qin Yu and Qin Lang also left consciously. Gu, it's Grandpa's fault. I didn't take good care of you. The old master reached out with a trembling hand, grabbed the back of Bei Yunj's hand, and patted it gently. Why are you saying this? Bei Yunj couldn't help but laugh. I can't be bothered with your parents. The old master's eyes turned red and he muttered to himself, I've never done anything bad in my life. I don't know why my Gu has to suffer such grievances. Grandpa, don't feel wronged. Bei Yunj sensed the change in his grandfather's emotions and immediately comforted him. Grandpa has already signed the agreement. After Grandpa leaves, other than leaving the company to your big brother to manage, my Gu will take 2/3 of the family assets. The rest will be divided among the 3 brats. Grandpa is worried that they will treat you well. Grandpa doesn't trust them. I only trust Gu. This time, Bei Yunj could tell that Grandpa Sheng was secretly leaving her an inheritance. Grandpa. Bei Yunj suddenly said. What happened? I'll make some porridge for you. Are you hungry? The old man said. Why are you eating porridge? I'm talking to you about something serious. Bei Yunj nodded obediently. Then you can continue to sleep. I'll peel an apple. The old man took a deep breath. If it was his grandson, he would have been beaten up. But it just had to be his most beloved granddaughter. Suddenly, Bei Yunj was peeling an apple when her phone rang. "Brother? When are you coming back?" Huashida's low and magnetic voice sounded. 10:30 at the latest. "Brother, just leave the door open for me." Bei Yunj simply put the phone aside and turned on the speaker. She continued to peel the apple. However, she did not notice that the old master had been staring at her. "Where is she now?" the man asked. "She's with my grandfather, accompanying him." Hearing Bei Yunj's words, Huashidu, who was in the office, raised his light-colored eyes. "Grandpa, what happened?" When Bei Yunj heard this, she happened to glance at the old master. Chapter 149. The old master was speechless. These words were completely treating him like a child. "You don't want to eat porridge?" Hearing this, Huashida's thin red lips curled up. At this moment, the old master, who had fallen silent, felt that his dignity had been ruined because of his granddaughter. "Okay. Brother, I'll coax her first. We'll talk when we get back. Give me a call when you're almost back." Huashida glanced at the remaining documents. After he was done, he could go and fetch the little girl home. "Okay." After hanging up the phone, Bei Yunj took a bite of the apple and felt the old master's resentful gaze again. "Do you like Mr. Hua a lot?" "Yes, I like him a lot." Bei Yunj did not hesitate. She continued to bite the apple and opened her laptop. This time, the old man didn't know where he got the strength from, but he suddenly got up and closed her computer. Bei Yunj was speechless. You're still young. You don't have to think about these things now." At the mention of his grandson-in-law, the old master suddenly became energetic. "Grandpa, I'm scared of you. Lie down quickly." Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes moved. She laughed again and helped him lie down. "I like brother Shidu, just like how I like grandpa." Bei Yunj smiled. Before the old master could relax, she heard her say, "However, I do think that older brother is very good." For a moment, the old master could not refute. He said that she would meet someone better in the future, but he was not confident that he could find someone better than Huashidu. However, he did not agree to let his granddaughter be abducted by someone else. In the control room, the technician looked at the time. It was only 8:30 p.m. He was about to watch a drama when the security system suddenly popped up a reminder. Even the alarm sounded. Again. The technician's face turned pale. When he came back to his senses, he realized that the system that the girl had modified would really find the intruder. "No, I have to get the director to look for her." The technician muttered and ran out of the control room. He could not deal with this intruder at all. He could only find that girl quickly and let her deal with it. However, what the technician hadn't expected was that the invader's mental state had also collapsed. In the internet cafe, in front of the computer screen, a sickly pale face was almost distorted. "Why can't we find it?" His computer was infected with a virus, and he still couldn't get rid of it. He could only come to the internet cafe to attack the hospital system. However, he couldn't find a single word of the information that he could easily find last time. "Who did it?" The young man clenched his teeth and sneered, Do you think I have no other choice? You're underestimating me." Today, he had to send old Master Qin on his way. Thinking of this, the young man's heart suddenly surged with pleasure and excitement. His expression was faintly excited as his fingers kept tapping on the keyboard. But at this moment, in the ward, lines of code appeared on Bei Yunj's computer screen. Seeing this, Bei Yunj sneered, and his eyes became more and more indifferent. She knew that this person would not necessarily keep his word. But, very good. He could settle the score together with the previous one. "Grandpa, watch the television for a while." Bei Yunj sat by the window, her eyes bright and unruly. At the same time, she was controlling the computer. Chapter 150. The young man originally wanted to use the equipment in the hospital ward to interfere with old Master Chin's treatment and monitoring. However, the more he hacked into it, the more he felt that it was strange. What was going on? Although he had hacked into another system, it was not to the extent that he could do it unimpeded. No. This situation was too smooth. Immediately, the young man inexplicably recalled the person who had hacked into Bei Yunji's computer in the afternoon, and his scalp went numb. Impossible. It's an illusion. How capable can a daughter who hasn't been valued for more than 10 years be? The young man comforted himself. It was because he was careless that someone had taken advantage of the opportunity to get the virus into his computer. How old was the daughter of the Qin family, who was treated as a joke? She might not even have graduated from high school. How could she have done it? The young man thought of this and felt much more relieved. However, he did not expect that his ferocious face and the words he had said had been completely displayed on Bei Yunji's screen. After Bei Yunji turned on the recording and adjusted her earpiece, she heard him cursing Qin Lang non-stop. Along with everyone in the Qin family, he was cursing. A bunch of trash and brainless fans. Do you really think you can do anything to me? The young man kept sneering and said in a disdainful tone, I'll see how Qin Lang will have the face to appear in the esports scene after this old man is dead. Other than Qin Lang, one could feel from his words that the person he hated the most was Bei Yunji. Bei Yunji? The young man found Bei Yunji's information on the internet and could not help but laugh out loud. He mocked, I thought she was very powerful, but it turns out that she's just a high school student. Qin Lang's sister is not a good person either. After I'm done with Qin Lang, you'll be next. This was the first time Bei Yunji had heard someone talk so much to himself. In less than 3 minutes, all the evidence was gathered. There was no difficulty at all. Bei Yunji laughed lazily, made a copy of the recording, and sent it to the office. Then, she adjusted her earpiece and clicked on the voice message. Her tone was lazy and presumptuous. Are you done? Then it's my turn to settle the score. Suddenly, the young man heard an unfamiliar female voice coming from his earpiece. His body stiffened. When he came back to his senses, he immediately asked, Who are you? Why are you asking so many questions? Bei Yunji laughed carelessly and said slowly, You'll make a lot of new friends in prison in the future. Hearing this, the young man's face turned green and red, and he sneered. Ha, do you think you can catch me just because you can talk to me? What wishful thinking. After saying this, he leaned against the chair in a carefree manner, without any intention of escaping. His appearance was even more arrogant. It was as if he felt that no one would be able to find his whereabouts. Don't tell me you're also a die-hard fan of Qin Lang. Clearly, his strength was only average, and he relied on his face to make a living. If he wants to blame someone, he can only blame himself. The young man said sarcastically. Really? Your worldview is quite disgusting. As Bei Yunji chatted, he leisurely locked onto the young man's location. Not far from the hospital, there was an internet cafe about 3 kilometers away. At this moment, before Bei Yunji could make up her mind, she heard the young man laugh again. He said contemptuously and proudly, So what? You die-hard fans, no matter how much you scold me online, it didn't make me lose a piece of flesh. On the other hand, Qin Lang and that old thing had a hard time in the hospital last night, right? Bei Yunji licked her lips and laughed as well. Chapter 151. You're right. Bei Yunji's lazy eyes were bright and high-spirited. However, I'm not Qin Lang's fan. Then, before the young man could react, he heard her laugh slowly. So, they can't make you lose a piece of meat, but I can. The moment she finished speaking, Bei Yunji closed her laptop and walked out. Grandpa, get someone outside to buy you whatever you want to eat. I still have something on. With that said, she disappeared. At this moment, the director, who was walking in anxiously, saw Bei Yunji and his eyes lit up. However, before he could speak, Bei Yunj brushed past him quickly with an inexplicable coldness. Where is she going? When the technician regained his senses, his scalp turned numb. Why did she look like she was going to fight? Quick, 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 go after her. What will happen to the old master if she leaves? The director pushed him away anxiously and started to pace back and forth like ants on a hot pan. But then, he suddenly heard Cheng Zihuai's voice. Mr. Zhong, why are you here? The director turned around and found that the old man in a formal suit in the distance looked a little familiar. Old Master Qin, is this the ward? Zhong Xinglin adjusted his tie and asked. Yes. Cheng Zihuai was indeed surprised. He had contacted the people in the A.M. Institute and said that something had happened to the Qin family and they might need the help of the Computing Institute. However, he did not expect that the people in the institute would really be willing to help. And the person who came was someone like old Master Zhong. Can I go in? Zhong Xinglin was a little uneasy. The young man beside him almost rolled his eyes. This was Miss Pei's grandfather, not that big shot's grandfather back then. Was old Master Zhong muddle-headed? Of course. Mrs. Qin, who had been standing beside him, was also full of smiles. You must be old Master Zhong Xinglin. I really didn't expect you to come and see my father-in-law. I really have to thank Zihuai for all of this. Similarly, Mrs. Qin also looked at Qin Yu and the rest with a confident smile. So what if old Master Qin dotes on Bei Yunj? But if it weren't for Jiao Jiao, would Cheng Zihuai have been able to put in a good word for them and invite Mr. Zhong Xinglin? What? Zhong Xinglin frowned and said bluntly, I'm here because of Miss Pei. In an instant, Mrs. Qin's smile froze and Qin Youjiao's sweet expression almost fell. Cheng Zihuai's entire body froze as he suddenly raised his head to look at Zhong Xinglin. His handsome face was ashen. Did Mr. Zhong come for Bei Yunj? He was the #1 computer expert in the country. Usually, other than in the news, he could only be seen. At other times, even wealthy families like them would not be able to establish a relationship with someone like Elder Zhong. After all, this was a person under the protection of the country. Even abroad, many big countries wanted to poach old Master Zhong. Are you joking? Mrs. Qin forced herself to ask. Zhong Xinglin glanced at Mrs. Qin unhappily. She was the matriarch of a wealthy family after all. Why didn't she think before speaking? I heard that something happened to Miss Pei's family, so I specially came to visit. Zhong Xinglin said expressionlessly, I wonder if Miss Pei is here. This time, Mrs. Qin's heart turned cold and she took 2 steps back unconsciously. How was that possible? How did Bei Yunj know someone like old Master Zhong? She's not here. Chapter 152. Mrs. Qin added, she's already gone. The Qin family is nothing to her. It's old Master's fortune that she came to see him. Mom. Qin Yu and Qin Lang's eyes turned cold as they interrupted her almost in unison. How could they not hear the sarcasm in Mrs. Qin's words? She was almost telling everyone that Bei Yunj was an unfilial ingrate. Elder Zhong, actually, Qin Yu was about to explain when he was interrupted by Zhong Xinglin. He chuckled. It's indeed your Qin family's fortune to have her. Instantly, everyone fell silent. They even suspected that Zhong Xinglin was saying this on purpose to insult Mrs. Qin. However, Elder Zhong was famous for being cold and arrogant and difficult to approach. Why would he protect Bei Yunj? Then, just as everyone was feeling strange and was about to ask again, the dean interrupted them. Mr. Zhong. The person who harmed old Master Qin yesterday is here again. Can you help old Master Qin? The dean's tone was anxious, but he was nervous. Would Zhong Xinglin agree? However, he did not expect Zhong Xinglin to pull the young man beside him and throw him into the ward. Brat, if anything happens to old Master Qin, pack your things and go to your beloved Marcus. The young man was speechless. In order to recruit the big boss beside Bei Yunj, this old man was really unscrupulous. Those who did not know better would think that old Master Qin was this old man's sworn brother. The young man was indignant, but he could only go to the nearby office reluctantly and start to check if there were any intruders. However, a few minutes later, he slammed his earphones down. This F*King security system is almost better than the security system we have. Let me see it. Let me see who can hack in. The young man could not help but lose his temper. How dare this system come out and act pitiful? What did you say? Zhong Xinglin was stunned for a moment, but he quickly thought of the person who helped Bei Yunj. Him again, a dark look flashed across Zhong Xinglin's eyes. His urge to steal the girl from him grew stronger. How could such a talent be given to that old guy Marcus? That's too ruthless. It would probably take me a few months to crack this security system. The young man couldn't help but sigh. Moreover, as long as there's an invasion, it can lock on to all directions. What kind of immortal big shot would do something like this? This level of security was something that many listed companies could not achieve even if they spent tens of millions every year. How could this be? Who would do such a thing for our Qin family? Mother Qin muttered. From the young man's words, it could be seen that this person's level was not inferior to the A.M. Computing Institute. But how could the Qin family know such a person? However, at this moment, the director suddenly remembered that Bei Yunj had casually modified the scene in the control room for more than 10 minutes. Actually, she is. After the dean came back to his senses, he wanted to say something, but in the end, he hesitated. He suddenly remembered that Bei Yunj had severed ties with Mother Qin and fell out with the Qin family. If he spoke too much, would Bei Yunj find trouble with him? The dean suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He did not dare to provoke this big boss in the computing field. Speak less and you'll be safe. Who is it?